Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the listeners of the Good Anime Palette podcast. Today is episode 28 of the regular syndication of the Good Anime Palette podcast. Hopefully everybody had a nice Valentine's Day last week, and for those who didn't, or are singles and not looking to mingle, that's completely fine because we're going to be rolling out another episode specifically for you guys. As always, it's me, Will, and of course it's Jason. How you doing, man?
So our regular syndication aside, our
setup is not regular at all.
So we had to do this at Will's house, and we had to migrate all of our equipment, or most of it.
Yeah.
And
long story short, there was a confirmed case of COVID at my office building. But the thing is, the person didn't get COVID while he was in the office. He had already been out of the office for several weeks and then got a confirmed case afterwards. But we're playing it safe. At the same time, like, cases are going up everywhere, so we're just waiting until things are a little bit safer.
Right. Obviously, COVID cannot be transmitted through audio, so you're all good guys. But Will and I are fine. We don't have COVID, and we just want to play it safe because, well, you never know, right? And if you don't know the situation in Hong Kong, if you're not from here at the moment, the cases have gone up exponentially. So,
Yep. So, of course, we do apologize if there's anything irregular with the sound. This is a whole new setup. It actually took us quite a while.
Yeah, well, it's like, what, an hour?
We're testing out new microphones, a new sound card, just essentially like a different desk as well. There's a lot more monitors than we have like 6 monitors like open ready to go.
1,
so
2, 3, 4.
Yeah, five.
Well, then this technically counts.
That counts as 5, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know how to count.
Yeah. But, we don't always know how to count, but we definitely know how to intro our episodes. So we're going to go straight into the usual, which is going over our watch and read lists. So both of us have, varying busy schedules, but during those busy schedules, we managed to fit in quite a lot of stuff. I think Jason's watched a bunch of stuff. I watched a ton of stuff as well. So should we just get into what we've been watching and then maybe go into the stuff we've been talking about for the discussion of today's episode?
And news stories as well. We have a handful of news.
Yeah, we didn't do that much news last time. This time around, we actually have quite a few news, and these are like quite important things as well. So we will spend some time going over the news sections today. But before we go into that, Jason, what have you been spending the last couple of weeks watching or reading?
So I've, as usual, have been watching and reading quite a bit. Most of which don't really feel the need to mention them. Some of them are for future episodes. Some of them are just for my own enjoyment. But recently, on Netflix, there has been a new series that was announced, a 6-episode ONA, which is original net animation, which is just a term given to a series that is released on the net and not on TV. So this one is called The Orbital Children. It is written and directed by Mitsuo Iso, and his last kind of major directorial work is something called Deno Coil in 2007, which is quite highly rated on my anime list. And part of the deal, I guess, with Netflix, because Netflix has the worldwide licensing for this 6-episode show, is that they would also get this anime as well.
Now, interestingly enough, they're also picking up a kind of like a brand new studio, I guess. Like they're using the studio called Production Plus H.
Right. So it is a new studio founded by a bunch of ex-Production IG and ex-Signal MD people.
Two pretty good studios. Okay, Production IG, great studio. Signal MD, been doing some pretty good stuff lately as well.
Right. So this is their Production Plus H's first accredited work, and it is the second directorial work by Mitsuo Iso, because he has been doing a bunch of, storyboarding and episode directors, but not like the big seat, the big boy director seat. So this is his show. The show is 6 episodes he wrote and directed. It's about a bunch of kids on a space station, and disaster strikes, and a bunch of bad stuff happens. That's really kind of most of it. I think one of the things that I need to mention is the ending, because the ending in particular was kind of gotten a lot of buzz and a lot of conversation. I finished it, obviously, so I know what the ending is. I'm not going to spoil it, don't worry. But as an anime original, because it's written and directed by the guy, it's a bit of a mess. What I will say first is that it is extremely well produced. If you look at this, it looks like a Hosoda movie. It really does. Not only the looks of the characters, but just also the kind of general story beats and the optimism that is in this.
I think more often than not, whenever you get something that is like published and then like released on Netflix, it does tend to look pretty good. The only issue is that like just because it looks good doesn't mean that the story is great. I mean, we've seen that with Yasuke. We've seen that with, I guess, I wouldn't say that Great Pretender is a bad story. It's just like it kind of left us wanting more. But generally, like no matter what, most Netflix productions look good. So you would say, I mean, at the same time, you have a combination of ex-production IG and Signal MD people doing the show. That's a pretty good makeup in terms of having like the experience and the skills to be able to produce something that looks nice. But in terms of the story itself, that's again where it's lacking, right?
I also have to give special shout outs to the design and kind of like, I guess, like the in-world lore. Everything is very well thought out, and it is designed very well such that it looks it feels like an actual space station. Now, the writing, though, kind of is a bit of a mess, and I think that on my anime list, it has like a 7.02 or something, 01, which is like barely a 7, obviously, and I kind of agree with that statement. I also think that this show kind of is tailored to children in a way, but tries to also be a bit more quote-unquote mature. So another series that I remembered that is also an ONA by Netflix is Eden. And I had okay things to say about Eden, and I still stand by those statements, but I feel that the Orbital Children is definitely way more ambitious, but by being ambitious doesn't necessarily mean you will always be successful. So I would say that this show is still pretty good. It's not necessarily like a skip, but it's more like watch when you've watched a bunch of other stuff. That's how I see it. Ironically, I would say watch Denno Coil. So, because that's what everyone's been saying. It's like really, really good.
Yeah, one of the other things I think you mentioned in the docket as well is that one of the characters is named NASA Houston.
Yeah, so, okay. How lazy or on the nose do you want to be?
We're talking about space, right? So we got to throw NASA in there. Oh, where does NASA have, space centers? Oh, they have one in Houston. Oh, why don't we make a character named NASA Houston? Do they actually pronounce it as NASA Houston, or do you like Japanify it? Like...
No, they say NASA Houston. And here's the funny thing. One of, I guess, like the officers, like one of the characters, they're like, dude, you would think that they actually call the anime out for naming this person NASA's. Like, you would think that this person knows space very well because her name is NASA. And I'm just like, guys, like, you technically have, you can decide what the name was, but you decided to go with this and make it kind of a lame joke. But hey, okay, it's all right. 7 out of 10. It's okay.
Okay.
And it's only 6 episodes, each like 35 minutes. So it's whatever.
Not bad, right? I mean, look, like, we usually give a lot of 8s and sometimes 9s. 7s we shouldn't ignore either, because in the end, like, a 7 is it's a passing grade. It's good. We have seen shows that we end up giving a 6, but we still watched it to the end anyway because there was some entertainment value. But a 7 is like, you should still at least give it a shot and check it out, especially if it's only 6 episodes.
Yeah, and I also think that a 7 for at least Will and I, it's more sometimes a niche thing. Like, oh, if you're into that niche, it might not even be a 7. It might be a 9.
But, I mean, were you ever at a 7.5 for this?
It was until the end.
So basically, again, right? Like, it could have easily been an 8. But because certain things didn't go the way you wanted them to, that's why you rounded down as opposed to rounding up. But that's still like a fair assessment.
It's hilarious because what you just said about things not working out
is exactly what happens in the show.
No, it's the opposite.
Oh.
Things worked out way too well. Everything was tied up like a bow. And I was just like, it could have been so much more. But let's just leave it at that.
If you ever need to see anything that's, worth about, talking about space and all that, there is a very, very historical one called Planets, which Unfortunately, it is incredibly hard to find. You can't find it online. You have to buy the DVD boxes. Like, if you're able to get your hands on it, watch that instead. So, onto what I've been reading or watching. We did actually read something, not together, but we both did read the same manga, a one-shot specifically. But before we get into that, I did spend a little bit of time watching a couple episodes of this anime called Welcome to the NHK, or NHK ni Yokoso. So it's based on, actually it's got a few different adaptations. It originally started off as a novel that came out in 2002. Then it got adapted into a manga, and then now it is, it's got now a two-cour anime that came out back in 2006 or 2007. Either way, it basically is a story about a hikikomori, or like an asocial recluse, someone who just doesn't want anything to do with the outside world, the whole society thing. Like, even if we live in a society, we don't want no part of it. It follows the main character named Sato. So Sato has been a recluse for the past 4 years. He's a university dropout and has been unemployed for many, many years, and only just basically living off of his parents' savings and inheritance. Not really amounting to what he was supposed to be, what he's supposed to do. So then he essentially just spends every day just smoking, reading manga, watching news, doing random stories inside of his own head to see if he actually was to exercise his own abilities and actually go out and be a contributing member of society.
Hey, Will, why are you mentioning my daily life right now?
Well, I mean, you're also working on university papers and actually getting stuff done for a podcast which everybody has been listening to. So there are some things that you do contribute to the world. Right? I mean, like, it's nothing to scoff at if you're doing, like, postgraduate level academic papers. Like, that's a pretty big deal. This guy, on the other hand, spends most of his time just playing and watching eroges and manga. The amount of cigarette butts he has in his room is fucking crazy.
That's disgusting. Like, if you're gonna smoke, do it outside.
Yeah, that's the thing, because he can't. He doesn't want to go outside. But then one day he gets a knock on his door, and someone is there to essentially talk to him about a sort of, it's like an AA. It's essentially basically trying to get people to reintegrate into society. It's a program to get hikikomoris to essentially break out of their shell and be able to gain confidence into actually developing social skills, getting an actual contributing job. But at the same time, it kind of just skirts over the fact that there are a lot of reasons as to why people choose to become a hikikomori in the first place. It's it's down to mental disabilities, social anxieties, systemic pressures. There's a lot of things that can contribute to it. So it's not that simple that you need to go into a rehab program and say, hey, look, you're not going to be a hikikomori anymore. So what happens though is that the person who is handing him this flyer to join in actually brought along I believe their daughter or their niece. It's their niece.
Was it take your daughter to work day?
No, she just happens to be working around. Her name is Misaki, and she's just basically this cute young little girl who is carrying a little umbrella. And even though he's this Sato character comes out like unshaven, you can smell the cigarette ash like from the room and all that. She just looks at him and just smiles. She's a very mysterious girl, but throughout their interactions, because every now and then he's like, you know what, I have this flyer. I'm gonna try and get a job. He goes to this job that he's gonna apply for. It's just like a small little clerk job, and she's there. She's just sitting there. It's like, oh, are you ready to be baptized into the world of the social living? Do you no longer want to be a hikikomori? I have ways of curing your hikikomori ways. And, of course, because of him being a hikikomori for 4 years, it's not like he's all of a sudden going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll totally do it. No, he just then has one of his little breakdowns and then decides to run back home. Unbeknownst to him, next door to him is another, well, not really hikikomori, but more just like a social outcast. It's a classmate of his from a long time ago when he was in middle school. His name is Kaoru Yamazaki. And it turns out that he has been working for a computer games development company. He's going to a school and is looking to get an internship, but then because of the fact that he's kind of like a social a social geek, doesn't really get along with people, a lot of people try to ostracize him. But Sato's like, no, dude, like I knew you from school. You were like super smart. Like, I always vouch for you. And then he turns back questions like, so how about you then? How's university been going? And then he finds out he's been skiving school, not actually doing shit. And then he bumps into the girl again and says, actually, you know what? Like, I'm not a hikikomori. I'm actually working as a games developer. So, first major lie. What does he have to do then? He then decides to go to his friend, Kaoru, and says, I need you to help me make a video game right now. It's like, where did this come about? And he explains why this is all happening. And then afterwards, like, okay, well, you lied to me, first of all. You said you were going to university. You're totally not. So you owe me on this. You're going to help me make a game. We're going to make an Eero game. And so then, in order to actually make this game, Kaoru has all the skills he needs. He's got games development, computer programming. He knows how to actually create a physical copy of a game. However, he's not very good when it comes to writing stories. That's where Sato comes in. But he needs source material. So then he decides to basically play a lot of Eroge, but instead of actually doing any research, he just ends up saving terabytes and terabytes worth of quote-unquote source material and ends up blowing up his computer. And I'm going to end it there because the rest of it is just basically like a whole bunch of shenanigans of how this guy is trying to make himself feel better about himself, but at the same time, like, wondering if he's actually letting down anybody else. But because he never really had expectations for himself, he therefore knows he doesn't have any expectations for other people. It's just one of those really, really well-written stories of just exploring how hard it is for some people to be able to accept their social inabilities, and that sometimes maybe they've just given up themselves and just want to actually self-ostracize from greater society. It's a very well-written story. I've yet to finish it. I'm still got quite a way to go, but I'm very enjoying it so far. I'm really enjoying, not very enjoying it. My English is terrible today. The current score for the anime is an 8.32, which is actually higher than the manga, which is at 8.17. I don't know, maybe it's the character drawings and all that. I haven't read the manga, but I have watched the anime. If you haven't checked it out yet, you should check it out. Watch it along with me. It should be a fun time.
I remember... Okay, so first of all, I remember hearing this anime quite a bit, and it's always associated with hikikomori and also associated with mental illness, and depression and things like that. So I always heard many, many good things, and the social shut-in NEET and EET / hikikomori is a very, very prominent issue, social issue in Japan in particular. Of course, there are instances of social outcasts and hermits from, all over the world, but in Japan, it's an extra sensitive and extra tough issue to tackle.
Yeah, it comes down to like social class, comes down to essentially like an aging society in Japan that really does need like the younger workforce to carry the backbone of the whole of Japan, but that in itself then creates pressure for the younger ones to actually succeed and provide like a platform for others to grow and to live. It's basically a deep dive into what works and what doesn't really work. And of course, because of the fact that it's anime, it's a little more lighthearted. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it does tackle various serious topics.
All right. That is Welcome to the NHK, right?
And now we go into... This is actually, like, I like that you read it as a group, but it's like we actually read it separately. You read it on your own. I read it on my own.
I read it first.
Yeah, you read it first, and I think I read it like maybe a day or two, or maybe like not too long after you did.
Yeah, because I was like, you need to get on this. So one of probably the most anticipated animes like in the this year or next year is Chainsaw Man.
I mean, everybody's seen the PVs, everyone's seen the trailers and all that. Looks fantastic. I hope that the people who are doing it at Mappa Studio don't burn out. Get some sleep, please. But yeah, we're super hyped for Chainsaw Man.
And Tatsuki Fujimoto is the name of the mangaka. This person also did Fire Punch, which Will also liked a lot too.
I loved it. It was such a good manga, but I know it's not for everyone.
So this guy Fujimoto has written a one-shot, which I thought was kind of interesting even before I knew what the one-shot was about, because I was like, this guy is riding high and he's so successful, have all these anime adaptation with Chainsaw Man coming out. Like, this guy is like on cloud 9. But then all of a sudden is like, yo, I'm just going to do a one-shot. And then this one-shot is like
It started blowing up on my mouth. Every time I opened up the front page, it would always just be like, "Oh, manga suggestions. Look back." It's like, okay, I'll just click on it, and I see, it's Fujimoto. Awesome. The score is incredibly fucking high. It's so damn high.
With an 8.44, it is ranked 153, popularity 375. Furthermore, in the This Manga is Awesome survey in Japan, this was ranked number 1 among male readers. It has won like so many awards. It is insane.
Yeah, the Takaraji Masha's Kono Manga's Gaskoi 2022. So for male readers, top of the list.
It has won it's got nominated for the 15th Manga Taisho Awards. Like 4 million people read it in the first 2 days of publication. And guess what? It's all free. That one shot is free on Jump Plus / Manga Plus. So it was always one of those things that were Will and I was just like, we should probably read this, right? And then I read it, then Will read it. And I'm really hesitant to say what's it about, because I even talking about the plot line is very sensitive and very spoilery, because it's only really short. It's literally a one shot. It's like 140 pages. So
let's just say it's an ode to all mangakas, all creatives, like anybody who does any sort of creative work. It dives deep into like the sort of deep mental states that people go through, the weight of expectation that is put on them, and of course, when it comes to doing these kind of things, the weight of decisions that you make. So, again, Jason said already, we don't want to go deep into the plot, because with only 140 pages, it's like you say one thing, and that's already covering 10 pages. But it's a really beautiful story, and the character designs, the drawings, and all that, they hold true to what Fujimoto's done. Like, you look at Chainsaw Man, you look at Fire Punch, and then you look at Look Back, you can see that there's definitely consistency in the way that he draws, and that he just decides to create character backstories. There's a lot of similarities in terms of how Fire Punch develops. You can definitely see some Easter eggs from Chainsaw Man, which is really cool. And if there is anybody out there who has also read Fire Punch, at the end of every volume, there is a little snippet that Fujimoto puts in. It's either a photo of his child, a photo of his childhood, a photo of his cats, a photo of him growing up, and then he'll have a little sort of like addendum, a little bit of like a note at the end talking about what happened. So, I saw a cat today. Today was a very nice day. I like chocolate oranges. That kind of stuff. And it's like, you're wondering why he puts it there, but it's also quite nice to occasionally see the inner workings of Fujimoto's mind outside of what he's doing when he's reading or writing manga. And a lot of those, if you put all those together, you can definitely see why Look Back exists. I'm not saying that like Fire Punch is the precursor to Look Back. I'm saying that this is very much like Fujimoto's story. It's about the way he looks at the creation of manga, his ways of writing. It's a very beautiful story.
I also think that one thing that is not necessarily very spoilery is that the main characters for Look Back is 2 women. Or 2, yeah, let's just say that. And I think just reading that 140 pages, each page actually doesn't have that much dialogue, but it has quite a lot of impact and a lot of commentary, not only on the manga industry, but just anime and manga industry, but just creative industries as a whole, and in terms of the sacrifices that you need to make, that is not necessarily even only applicable to creative industries. It's just in general, like the sacrifices that you have to make, the things that you have to give up, the things that you gain are sometimes not readily apparent. But when you, I guess, look back on it, it actually makes a big difference.
I think one thing you mentioned as well, right, where there's not a lot of dialogue, not a lot of speech. I was actually thinking, if you took out all the speech bubbles from Look Back, the story would still be the same. Of course, like the dialogue adds impact to it, but like it's the classic, a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? Like, it's just one of those things where Fujimoto has put so much time into creating something that just from drawing alone, he's able to express a lot that goes beyond words, and it's altogether like a really beautiful. I gave it like a 9 out of 10.
I also give it a 9 out of 10, and I think that if you kind of are in a very field that draws upon creative inputs, you would probably feel very emotional about certain plights and difficulties that these characters had to go through. And
it covers stress, it covers regret, it covers missed opportunities, it covers a lot of foresight, hindsight, stigma, absolutely, and the weight of pressure on oneself, or basically like forced pressure of others that you think you deserve onto oneself, but at the same time being able to get acceptance, being able to get closure, being able to move forward with things. I think regardless of you who are in the creative industry or you're in an industry that requires you to, turn on your thinking caps, like this is definitely something that is well worth your time. It's only 140 pages, and like Jason said, the best thing is it's free to read. Like, so go out, like download the app on your phone or just on your iPad, whatever device you might have. Please read it. It is such a beautiful story.
It is such a beautiful story. And that's just what is crazy to me, because Fujimoto is this guy that's basically going to be the next hot thing. And he's like, yo, I'm just going to make this one shot that is going to quite literally rock the manga industry at large. Oh, yeah. And by the way, free.
Like, it came out of nowhere, right? Like you said, it's like, oh, you're riding the high Chainsaw Man. You're getting adapted very, very soon. What are you going to do? I'm just going to draw manga about life as a mangaka, but not really. But please read it so you can see what my thinking process is. Like, you make one of the most dark manga series I've ever read in Fire Punch, and then you like do one of the most like hyperactive, like violence, like to the max series that's getting adapted into an anime that is Chainsaw Man, and then you drop this. Like, holy crap! Like it's as if you're just like widening the catalog of your genres. It's a fucking great entry as a one shot. Like it's so good. I don't really read many one shots at all, but I could say like if I read any others, like it may not be as impactful as this. I don't know. It just definitely piqued my interest in reading more one shots.
So I also think that everyone needs to read this. It is really, really well done. If this could turn into a movie, I also think it would be really good. As an anime series, it's not possible because what are you going to do? Like split that up into 2-3 episodes? But as a movie, honestly, it is I implore everyone to read this. It's not necessarily going to blow your minds, but you'll read this and then be like, yeah, that was good.
It's definitely like personal, emotional impact, and I think that it could definitely speak to you on a very different like amount of levels. For me, it's like I'm not a creative outside of maybe doing stuff for the podcast, but again, it's like I'm not creating a new sort of material. I'm not creating manga or anime, but I can still see there's a lot of parallels with my life and how I make certain decisions, and it's just very eye-opening. I'm really glad that I got the chance to read Look Back, and everybody does have that chance. It's still live and free to read on the Manga Plus app, on the Jump Plus app. So go download it, read it, and hopefully it does something to make things a little bit easier for you as we go through a rather tough time with COVID.
All right, so that is the end of our what we've been watching or reading segment.
It's really rare whenever it's like both of us have read and watched something. Usually it's like you read and watch something, I read something, or like maybe you haven't really done that much. But this time it's like we've on top of the homework we've been doing, we've been pretty consistent in terms of making sure that we have stuff that we actually read and watch outside of our discussion topics. It's been very busy the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we spent quite a bit of time, which I think is awesome, to talk about these shows and one shots in this case.
Yeah, I mean, Look Back is great. Welcome to NHK is great.
Orbital Children is all right.
It's decent.
It's all right.
But definitely stuff that you can definitely check out, read, or watch.
So, okay, Will. So now that we're on to the news, I need to sort of mention 2 quick announcements about the news stories, and let's see if this is going to blow your mind, okay?
Oh, shit. Okay. So we haven't done a proper news section in a while, so I'm ready. Like, bring on the news. What are you going to blow me away with?
So, do you remember a show called Jujutsu Kaisen?
Oh, yeah. It's that really popular shonen, right?
Yeah, it had like
with
one
Iwatani
season.
And, And, I think one of the best characters, Nobaru. Yeah, I love Hammer Girl. Hammer Girl's great.
Hammer Girl's awesome. And then, do you remember there was a film, at least in Japan? I mean, I think it's coming out in the West, obviously, and in Hong Kong.
Goddamn, I hope it comes out in Hong Kong soon. But then again, all cinemas are closed. So,
But Jujutsu Kaisen 0, which is the prequel, right?
yeah, if we can get our hands on it, we can ever watch it. We will absolutely watch it.
So it's super successful. At the what if I told you there was a season 2?
Oh wait, no way! There's gonna be a second season of the most popular anime of last year that isn't called Demon Slayer,
And also the movie.
Oof.
So yeah,
so it's coming out. Second season. Woo! JJK 2.
So here's the thing with the announcement that is surprising. It's coming out in 2023.
Right. It's still being done by Mappa, right?
Yes.
Which I think is like it makes sense considering that they're in the middle of doing AOT. They've got Chainsaw Man coming up very soon. Mappa is just I think they picked up a bunch of other stuff too. So they've been keeping busy. Very, very busy. But again, it does not surprise me at all that Jujutsu Kaisen is getting a second season. Because let's be real. Season 1 was awesome. Was really, really good. Some of the fight scenes were incredible, which we'll talk about a little bit later on today. But overall, I think that I don't really have much to say that's negative about Jujutsu Kaisen.
This is the most non-news story, or the most obvious news story of the year.
Well,
really.
I guess second or first, because there's another one which is
right. Okay,
gonna blow your mind away.
Okay, Will. Do you like Demon Slayer?
Oh,
have you heard of it?
The other almost insanely popular, well-known, global appeal anime movie of all time. Yeah,
Season 2 just ended.
Yeah, and I haven't watched the last episode yet. I know it's a 1 hour header to basically finish up the entertainment arc. It is, I mean, so far what I've watched is fucking incredible. But I also did buy a couple of the volumes of the manga because I really did want to see what happens. So I haven't watched it yet, but I know what happens. I'm in for a good time. But what's this news about Demon Slayer?
So the next arc after the Entertainment District arc, named the Swordsmith Village arc, is getting a TV anime. In other words, you're getting season 3 of Demon Slayer.
That's right. The Demon Slayer USA Twitter page has posted two posters of characters that are going to be featuring, not only just featuring, but also in big headers at the top. TV anime confirmed. Original story by Koyoharu Gotoge and directed by Haruo Sotakazi, blah, blah, blah. Still going to be Ufotable. It's still going to kick ass. But this new arc, they haven't really given much information in terms of when it's going to come out, but that doesn't matter because literally the Entertainment District arc just finished. So we should be expecting this to come out next year.
Probably, yeah.
Probably next year.
So that is the two most obvious announcements of the year, probably. But it is a very welcomed confirmation nonetheless. All right. But Demon Slayer is not done yet because I don't know how to segue into this, Will, other than, it's Demon Slayer. But an anonymous donor who names himself Rengoku, which is the fire pillar in Demon Slayer, donated 100,000 yen to Saitama's Fujimi City Hall.
Now, before we go into that, Saitama is a city in Japan. We're not talking about the protagonist from One Punch Man.
No. Sorry to blow your mind.
Just to make absolute sure. I think most people will know, but hey, Saitama is a pretty good OP, right? A pretty good OP character. Anyways, so Fujimi City, which is a city within Saitama, essentially they work on a lot of different projects and plans to be able to create social welfare projects to support the elderly and disabled. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, Japan's not a completely tech concrete city. There are actually a lot of rural landscapes throughout Japan, and therefore it does mean that there needs to be a strong backbone to be able to support their aging society. So this donation of 100,000 yen comes to around $860,000 US, under the moniker of Kyojuro Rengoku. Essentially, that money is going to be used to go towards those social welfare projects. So it includes, basically buying masks or providing food plans. In fact, last year actually there was another one too, which was a self-identified Inosuke Hashibara, which is the boar man in Demon Slayer, donated 100 masks to a nursing school in Iwatani Prefecture. So look, Demon Slayer is not just about box office hits. It's also about doing good within the society. It's great that people are using these monikers to be able to garner attention, but it's good attention.
Now, to our knowledge, Ufotable has nothing to do with it or has not taken credit for it. I think this is just an anonymous donor using the moniker of these Demon Slayer characters. But it is very comforting to sort of hear these acts of kindness and charity in a period where things are uncertain and kind of all over the place. So be nice to your neighbors, be nice to yourself, and stay safe and stay healthy, right? Well,
yeah, this wasn't like some sort of like check to the city. It wasn't like a e-transfer over to the city of Fujimi. It was just straight up cash in an envelope that was dropped into their comment box.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, oh, let's make a big news story out of this, other than the reporting of it. It's just very low-key, like...
Take the money and use it for the good of the people. And that was like... That's beautiful in itself. We don't want to go further into as like who the person is, where the money came from, and all that.
Because we don't know.
Yeah, like we don't want to report something that we don't know. But what we can report is that the money is going to be used for social welfare, which at a time like this is very much needed. So, hey, whoever you are, the so-called Rengoku... Thank you very much for doing this. And of course, from last year, Inosuke, thank you for donating all those masks to Watsu Prefecture as well.
Now, anime and manga is great, Will, right?
I mean, it's good. I mean, as our podcast is called, it is definitely good.
The problem is not everyone agrees with that statement.
Which one are we going with first? Are we going with...
The old farts.
Ah, fuck.
Okay, so we are now...
The Oscars are racist.
Oh, God. Okay, so... this news story, there is no anime film being nominated for the 94th Oscar. So I don't think people need to know what the Oscars are. They're also known as the Academy Awards. And every year they have awards for a lot of good movies and so on and so forth. One of them being Best Animated Feature. And unfortunately, this time around, similarly to... I don't know. The only anime film that really got any attention really was Spirited Away, to my knowledge. Everything else since then was kind of just whatever. So,
I mean, you had Belle with the Cannes Festival, but that's Cannes,
right?
Not Oscars, right?
And the hilarious thing is Belle was eligible. Also, Bones' Josie, the Tiger and the Fish, which is a very highly acclaimed anime film, also did not get nominated, obviously. And if you look through the nominations, my God, like, it's just very, very Western-oriented animations that... what was it? One of them, like, a while ago, the nomination lost to Boss Baby, right? Do you remember which...
Yes, I remember that one, but I don't remember what was the nomination.
I think it was a Hosoda film.
Whatever. Fucking Boss Baby.
But basically, the Oscars hate anime. Or does not feel the need to highlight the importance of anime, despite the fact that, the Oscars takes place in the U.S. and also has a lot of accolades when it comes to outside of the Oscars. For example, Mugen Train doing so well. For example, Attack on Titan doing so well. And all these sort of proliferation of anime and manga in general, topping all these New York Times bestseller charts. But the Oscars are like, nah, son, you can't do that. Oh,
look,
Cannes?
The fucking nominees are Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells and the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. 3 of those movies are fucking Disney movies. Okay? Like, I get that. It's like, for example, like if you were to do like a Japanese animation movies of all time, you would have Ghibli topping it. I get that. Of course, if you have a powerhouse that is in like the specific sector you're in, it's going to be hard to go up against a giant like Disney. But it just seems like there's just lack of variety. There's just nothing. Like, okay, fine. I mean, Disney's been on a tear and buying up all these studios and incorporating their shit. I mean, even ESPN is under Disney. But like, let's just take a look at this, right? Like, there's absolutely like nothing to look into. Okay, fine. Let's not maybe say, oh, they're racist and all that, because yeah, okay, fine. And Kanto and Luca, they do cover different peoples of race and all that. But when we talk about the animation backgrounds, the companies that go behind it, especially when it comes to Walt Disney and then the representation of Japanese animation, it just doesn't seem like there is that much care. I mean, it almost never really cares. I mean, like for the longest time when we talk about Oscars or any movie awards, we have stuff like Minari, we have stuff like Parasites. Those two movies were fucking amazing. But and of course, Parasite got a lot of accolade, but it took so long to be able to get like non-Western animations and films to get recognized. Like, who knows? Maybe in another 5-6 years, we might finally see an anime movie or an animation, Japanese animation, or Asian animation for that matter, to get nominated.
So yeah, this is same shit, different day. You might say, what's the big deal? It's not a big deal, but it also is a big deal. So it's just, we just thought we would report it. But Will, if the Academy Awards does not acknowledge anime, what about a very, very prominent streaming service, which is all about anime?
High Dive.
High Dive is great.
Yeah, but they don't have High Dive Awards. Instead, we're talking about Crunchyroll.
So the Crunchyroll 2022 Anime Awards have listed out their winners and nominations, and we have them in front of us. We're not obviously going to go through every single one. If you want to, you can just, go onto their website or Google it.
We can just blast through a couple of them. I mean, no doubt, Anime of the Year, Attack on Titan's final season, Part 1.
Okay, I have to say, Sunny Boy was nominated. I thought was pretty dope.
That was cool. I mean, Odd Taxi was also nominated too, and I thought it was great. It makes sense that Ranking of Kings is on there, JJK Cur 2, 86, and then eventual winner, Attack on Titan. Makes sense. Best Boy, I mean, it had to be Boji from Ranking of Kings.
It was great.
Fucking great. But I was also surprised that Senku from Dr. Stone Season 2 was in there. I didn't think he was all that special. If anything, I would have thought that the main character from 86 would be there, but maybe, I don't know. That's my own personal preference. Best Girl, Nobara from JJK. Okay, definitely. But she had some tough competition.
Yeah, because Kaigeki Shoujo, Sare Watanabe is a really good character. I really like it a lot.
Toru Honda from Fruits Basket.
And of course, Miss Comey, because she's not married. Miss Comey from Comey Can't Communicate, Shoko Comey.
I also like that Milize from 86 is there, and Ioto from Wonder Egg Priority. It's the only nomination that we've seen from Wonder Egg. So, hey, congrats. You know you fucked up the ending.
A protagonist also was nominated.
Fuck, I don't give a fuck. Because the best protagonist was from Odd Taxi, Otokawa. We're not going to say antagonist. That's spoiler as fuck. Best fight scene. Jujutsu Kaisen's tag team fight with Yuji and Aoi versus Hanami. Fucking great.
I also thought that it was funny that Jujutsu Kaisen has 2 nominations in that category and won 1. And the other fight is also dope.
It's a shonen action, right? Like, of course it's going to be like littered with like choices.
Oh, so you're saying Boruto is a great...
To be fair, though, I forgot what the glasses girl name is, but like her fight and then Nobara's fight, those were also really good.
Maki?
Yeah. Maki's fight with her sister, that was a really good fight.
That whole episode about like just the women going ape shit on each other is just dope.
Yeah. Please watch Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, please watch.
Oh, wait. You haven't heard yet. JJK 2 is coming out next year.
2023. Yeah.
Best director, best animation, best character design, yada, yada, yada. Best score. We're getting to the point where like there's a lot of like, okay, we expected these to be winners.
Okay, there's some VAs for English and Japanese, but they're very...
Up until we get to the point where we talk about the best fantasy. Okay, so before that, best romance, Horimiya. Makes sense. Best drama, To Your Eternity. Makes sense. Best comedy, Komi Can't Communicate. Makes sense. Best action, Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay, wonderful.
Wait.
Best... Okay, again, best romance. Okay, you could make a case for Fruits Basket the final, but I mean, look, I didn't watch Horimiya.
I really like Horimiya, but I would have picked Fruits Basket over Horimiya. Like the way that I told Will is Horimiya is kind of like the people's choice, and Fruits Basket is like the critic's choice. If I had any say in the matter,
yeah.
But the one that Will said, like, please, this is the one that I think is hilarious to me.
Best fantasy.
Wait, Will. So. What was the best fantasy?
I mean, obviously, it has to be Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, the first Cur.
Right.
It also had like Ranking of Kings as nominations, Case Study of Vanitas, To Your Eternity, Wonder Egg.
Yo, those are all great shows, Will. None
of them won.
What? Wait.
The best fantasy of the 2022 Anime Awards by Crunchyroll, #Anime Awards, is That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Season 2.
Also known as Slime Isekai. So, look, I actually think that Slime Isekai is not a bad show. It's actually a pretty good show.
I liked it. I did not like it as much as Mushoku Tensei, though. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's why we are kind of very tilted about it, because
Mushoku Tensei is amazing. Oh god.
Okay, even if you exclude Mushoku Tensei, let's just say for
I will
argument's
put
sake,
Ranking of Kings.
Ranking of Kings should be on there.
To Your Eternity, I will put it there.
Wonder Egg Priority,
Except for the final. Like I would put. I mean, I don't know much about Case Study of Vanitas. We stopped after the first 2 episodes.
But people say it's great. So
I mean, the rankings tell it's gone better, right, for season 2. But
of all the potential candidates, you decided to go with Slime Isekai. Like, I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, Will, but you and I are just tilted as fuck.
We're at the same page, man. Like, oh god, I even watched Giga's response to this too, and Giga's like, "Are y'all fucking serious?" Like, I can't take the Crunchyroll Awards that seriously. I mean, granted,
no one does really, but
yeah.
But this is the thing that you go with, which is it's just okay, fuck it, okay. Also,
I'm also surprised that when you talk about best film, that Belle wasn't a nomination. Oh, no, it was a nomination.
It was.
But Demon Slayer. Okay, the caveat with Demon Slayer is that yes, it did come out at the end of 2020, but in Japan, in the US, it aired in January of 2021. So that's why it met the cutoff point. So therefore, if you're gonna talk about best film, it's kind of hard to go against something that hit 40 billion yen in the box office.
The runner-ups for best film is Belle, as we mentioned, Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 Thrice Upon a Time, which is the last Evangelion. It should be the last Evangelion thing ever.
It should be, unless the fans decide to piss off the guy again. He's like, well, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going to make more Evangelion. Piss all you off.
The final end of part 2 of
and
the final season.
In the end, it's just Shinji just flipping off everybody in the poster. That's it.
For 6 hours. It's going to be great. Josie the Tiger and the Fish got nominated as well, which Will and I heard is a very, very good film, and we will check that out for our later episode. Shirobako, which is another show that Will and I quite like a lot.
Yeah.
I should finish the anime so I can watch the movie.
And then the other runner-up is Words Bubble Up Like Soda Pop, which you did watch.
Yes, and I think it's a very above-average anime film, very cutesy, of course, as you might expect, very bubbly. And it's just a nice time. Obviously, Mugen Train is not surprising. But how do I say this? Just have some variety. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, we're complaining about the same thing with, the animations, nominees for the Oscars. But, I mean, it is true, though. Sometimes, you just want to see other stuff winning. Okay, fully deserved, of course. Demon Slayer, yeah. But it's, does it really need more awards? Does it really need more attention now? We're well beyond Mugen Train. We're getting into the Swordsmith Village arc now. Let's just keep this train moving along.
Okay. This is the last thing I would talk about the Crunchyroll Awards and Mugen Train, which is Mugen Train the TV arc won awards, and Mugen Train the movie won best film. So it is just Demon Slayer is just I'm just gonna this other iteration, we're just gonna sweep the floor with it too. It's just. Guys, okay.
I mean, Demon Slayer also won Best Ending Sequence, which, to be fair, I thought was cool.
And Best Animation, which is good, but then that's the TV version. But it's basically the movie, which is the part that boggles my mind because they're basically the same thing. So,
yep.
Fine. All right. But let's go into the last news story, which actually I am very, very interested to talk about.
Yep. So on Reddit, there was a post that essentially collated all the different nominations for manga we want to see animated in 2022. So this is done by Anime Japan, which is a Japanese animation industry annual event where they basically have not just domestic but also overseas companies coming in. I think sometime. Basically in late March, over a 4-day event, and they basically put up a poll. They've had this Google forum where they basically had voting run up for quite a while, up until February 10th.
So 9 days ago.
So finished, 9 days ago. And there were a lot of entries. Now,
102.
Remember, these are manga that we want to see animated. Now, most of these manga are going to be purely in Japanese. They might not even be on the Manga Plus or Jump Plus app. These could just be local syndication. But there are some that Jason and I have read and also really enjoyed. There's a total of 102 entries, so we're not going to go through all of them, but we are going to pick and choose a couple that we're actually very happy to see on the list, and maybe some that like we're wondering why it's not on the list.
So you can also probably, for some of the ones that we mentioned, you can probably read the official English publication, translation, digital manga, because I've done that as well. For example, and by the way, these numbers are not in alphabetical order or hierarchy. It is just the way that it's listed. So I don't know the way that they sort it out. But Tying the Knot with Amagami's Sister is, I think, a pretty decent harem romance manga, which is done by the assistant of Quintessential Quintuplets. And the storyline is almost exactly the same, except also not exactly the same. I'll just leave it at that. I think the manga's okay for now.
Then there's also other stuff on there like Marshall, Sakamoto Days, Kaiju number 8, which I'm really vouching for as well.
Which is there's a bunch of Shonen Jump stuff, basically.
Yeah. There are a few on here that I'm really not happy that it's on here. For example, Undead Unluck. I don't vouch for it at all. I don't want to go into it because it actually does like anger me whenever I talk about it.
Solo Leveling is quite interesting at number 22.
Yeah, I actually didn't go through the whole list. I wouldn't doubt that there are some manhwas on here, but I was kind of interested to see like why Solo Leveling is on here. I don't think that there really is much coordination between like manhwa companies and Crunchyroll, because Crunchyroll had that webtoon collaboration. But I know the difference because Solo Leveling's not on webtoon; it's on its own other platform. But I also don't know like what studio is going to pick it up, and also like why. Like if anything, like I would have thought that if you're going to do a webtoon, please people like get Sweet Home, get Bastard, get some of that stuff. Those things are fucking great.
Another manga that
Omniscient Reader. That's a really good one too.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. I read that too. So there's just a lot of good digital properties, digital manga, like Even If You Slip My Mouth, which I've mentioned numerous times.
That one I do want to read. And then I thought Frieren was
Frieren Beyond Journey's End is also on here. Witch Hat Atelier is also on here, which is fantastic.
I don't know why Me and Roboco is on there. I thought they were getting canceled.
Well, I guess I don't know. Delicious in Dungeon is kind of like this food dungeon crawler manga that's really, really good.
There's a lot of otomes. There's a lot of isekais.
There's a lot of eroge.
There's some BL stuff in here as well.
And I mean, there's some.
Out of 102 nominations, like. You wouldn't doubt that there'd be like a widespread of genres.
So I will say this, which is number 57 on the list is How Do We Relationship, which is a Yuri/girl love manga that I read. And I thought that of all the girl love stuff, you chose that. It's expected, but also like not necessarily the most like critical darling. But it's okay, I'll take it. Fine. Another one is like if you like monster girls, Nurse Hitomi's Monster Infirmary is pretty interesting.
The one I haven't read but I know about because I've seen enough memes on it on the internet is Kimi no Koto ga daisuki na hyakunin no kanojo, which is the 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you.
Yep. I've heard lots of good things. I was saying how every year there is a show for the past 3-4 years that has the name Girlfriend in it. So was it Domestic Girlfriend?
Yeah.
Then there was Rent a Girlfriend. And then last year we got Girlfriend. So then this year we're going to get
100 girlfriends
that really, really, really love you. A Sign of Affection is number 94. Again, these are not ranked in terms of hierarchy, but they're on the list.
The one I actually do want to see, which I haven't read yet, is Campfire Cooking in Another World.
So if you like that one, I read both of them. Delicious in Dungeon is way better.
Okay.
They're kind of the same thing.
Dungeon Meshi, I know that one. I should read that one.
Yeah, there's like 8 or 9 volumes out in English. So it's really, really good.
And it's also pretty highly rated. Remember, it was like an 8.34.
But the Cooking with Wildfire one is like not as good, obviously, but it's like a 7 point something. So it's
if it meets that niche for you, then like great, right? Like
Yeah.
it's definitely worth checking out. I know a lot about Dungeon Meshi. Yeah, I do want to check it out.
so Sakamoto Days, as we mentioned, is
yeah,
on
actually,
here.
yeah. Dungeon Meshi got #1 in the Manga ga Sugoi for male
Yep.
readers back
That's
in
right.
2016.
Yep.
So, yeah, definitely
So-
worth checking our time.
It's definitely worth checking out. I mean, there is obviously 102 stuff on here, mangas on here, so we can just go on for quite a bit. But needless to say that, like, even if this survey does not end up coming to an actual anime adaptation of the winners, it nonetheless shows that at least of all the mangas, these 102 are up for selection, and the winner usually is like an indication at least that, oh, all of us really want this animated. Hint, hint.
You also
Wink,
got
wink.
to also shout out to all the manga readers because, like, look, Jason and I, like, if it wasn't for the podcast and doing all these discussion topics, we would have trouble actually clearing up our hold lists, stuff that we've been waiting to clean up. So imagine like that just for anime, but then here on the manga list, there's 102. Imagine like having to choose from 102 mangas that you want to watch as an adaptation, and then think about it, it's like, well, people would have had to at least read most of them to be able to nominate them in the first place.
Look, I've read a number of them, not obviously all of them, because some of them are not available officially in English, but I've read quite a bit of them. And if you were to tell me those were and choose one, I would still like have a problem. Like Delicious in Dungeon, Witch Hat Atelier, Mashal, and like A Sign of Affection. Like, how the fuck am I gonna pick? It's crazy. But hey, there you go.
Yeah, the manga world is fucking insane. Props to everybody who keeps up to date, man.
Yeah, props up. So the voting period is over, but we will see what the winner is, and we will probably report on it at a future date.
This will actually be pretty cool because then we actually have like a reference point where if something does get animated, it's like, okay, awesome. This entry got ticked off the list. So out of the 102, I could see a fair amount of these getting adapted just because of the fact that a lot of them are rom-coms or harems, isekais. And then, of course, there's like the really popular stuff like Kaiju Number 8, Mashal, Dungeon Meshi. Like, it's about time. It's about time we can start seeing more animations rather than just reboots and second seasons and third seasons of stuff that we knew were going to get adapted anyway.
I mean, Komi can't communicate one year. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I mean, it's also good now. With the past, with the current winter season, there's a lot of relatively new stuff, but at the same time, you know, you've already heard our comments about how the season unfolds. Yeah, we'll just wait and see if maybe winter 2023 will have some new shit.
All right, that is the end of our news segment. We went on for quite a bit, but hey, Will and I are passionate not only about the recognition front, but the lack of recognition front as well.
Dude, sometimes like when you just know something's good and others don't see it, like of course you're gonna be a little biased and really push for your boy or your girl or your series, but I don't know, man. Like it just seems like we're still so far away from Japanese animation getting recognized. I mean, I don't know.
But on the other hand, like Will, this year we have not this year because it's 2022. Last year, can you believe that? Last year, we reported on so many news stories throughout the year of very, very positive influence of world international appreciation of anime and manga, from France to the West,
Harvey Awards
to just like everyone.
Fucking Attack on Titan's opening, reaching the top of the hard rock billboards, like. Yeah, it's awesome. It's really awesome, and I hope that continues that trend because look, there's so much within this world of content that I think we should start taking notice of. I mean, if we're going to be starting to watch like film noirs or like sort of like indie films that are done in like foreign languages on Netflix, it shouldn't be that weird or that strange to start picking up anime or manga.
And if everyone is really obsessed about like K-dramas and Squid Game and Hellbound, which, to be fair, like
they're all good.
They're all good.
We're not saying they're bad.
Exactly.
Look. I mean, just last week I watched a Norwegian film off Netflix, The Trip. Really awesome movie. I'm not just like fanboying over anime and manga.
I am though, but
at the same time, it's like you are because it's good, right? There's nothing bad to say about it. Like,
I mean, no, there is a lot of bad things. We just
don't want to talk about it.
yeah. we sweep it under the rug.
There's just, I mean, look, you can tell. I mean, like we wouldn't have started this podcast if we weren't like passionate about this shit, and we really do want to make sure that if you're not going to check out this stuff, that at the very least you know that there is good stuff to check out at some point.
Yeah, at the very least, if someone were to come up to you and ask about anime and manga, you might be able to keep up with a conversation or something. Because I anticipate that sooner or later, if you don't know, it's like, what, you don't know Squid Game? What the fuck are you doing?
Look, we're just going to end with this. If you don't really care for anime or manga, at the very least, you should read Look Back.
Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Right? So we're going to end on there. We'll take a quick break, and then we're going to go into our discussion. I know it's been very long, but thank you for bearing with us. We'll catch you very soon.
Peace. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Good Anime Pal Podcast, episode 28. I am Jason. I'm joined always by my partner in crime, Will. Our break was pretty good.
Yeah, definitely needed that break just to calm down from the shit show that was the Crunchyroll Awards and the Oscar nominations. Yeah, definitely feeling better now. So let's get back at it. We're going to go into today's main discussion topic. Now, if you listened to the last episode, which is episode 27, we talked about some important ensemble characters in anime and manga. So, of course, a collective of people, groups, partners, and all that. This time around, we're doing the exact opposite. We're talking about the solos, the loners, the single people that exist in the world of anime and manga. Now, there, of course, are different definitions of it, but we're going to go into it later on. Let's just talk about, to start off with, why we want to talk about lone wolves, why we want to talk about the singles, the loners of anime and manga.
I think that the appeal of singles / lone wolves is actually very prominent in all of media in general, in terms of single people finding love, or single people being solo by themselves, or lone wolves being kind of like this overpowered, kind of like this rogue agent on their own, accomplishing everything. So we thought that the antithesis of support characters, basically like a huge cast of characters helping the main character. The opposite of that, obviously, now is what happens when the main character is alone, traveling alone.
Because let's be real, within like anime and manga, the number one thing that everyone cares about is friendship. Friendship is the most important thing. But in this case, we're talking about the lack of friendship. And most of the time, it usually starts off that way when we talk about loners and singles in anime and manga, because it's that journey that they go through in terms of self-confidence, in terms of building relationships and character backstories. Most of the time, whenever we see like a single or loner, they don't always progress through the whole thing as a single or as a loner. They do end up maybe picking up an entourage or getting people that they trust or people that trust them. But for the most part, we're talking about characters that are very much independent and self-reliant, and in most cases, just end up staying that way.
I think it's very apt that Will watched Welcome to the NHK and talking about like hikikomori and shut-ins, because that is almost like the most extreme case of being a single / loner / lone wolf type of character. And I feel that seeing the growth of these characters from like their before and after kind of thing really highlights the growth and development of a character, more so than, let's just say, your average Joe going through a change or transformation. So another thing I feel that is very kind of appropriate is in terms of the stereotypes. Now, this is the part where I have to be a little bit careful, because not all people who consume anime and manga, especially like nowadays, are like this, but there's definitely a good segment of any industry, any genre, where there are people who are very, independent and lone, and kind of maybe is a social outcast, but not by choice, or very antisocial, but not necessarily your typical nerd, but just choose to be that way. So I think that there is a good segment of people who associate, or at least can identify, certain characteristics of being a lone wolf or being a single person.
Yeah. Now, we're not going to be saying, of course, that loners and singles are essentially pillars to what creates a good anime story. We're not using them as like a common factor. What we're trying to say here is that sometimes like writers want to highlight social struggle, mental struggle. They want to highlight growth. They want to show that it's not always that easy and rosy for most characters. It's not like you have. I mean, for example, I'll just say it straight up. One of the best loners to begin any like shonens ever was Naruto. Right, he starts off as a lone wolf. Nobody likes him. Everybody ostracized him from the Hidden Leaf Village because he has powers that people are afraid of. But as he grows, he learns to be able to become more self-confident, more self-reliant, and people start to learn to trust him. And he ends up being one of the most powerful characters in all of shonen anime and manga. So, like, we always feel that we want to highlight these kind of things because these are like real life, like social issues, real life mental issues. And of course, it's great that we have certain mediums, specifically like anime and manga, that highlight these, sometimes in negative ways, sometimes in positive ways. But no matter what, it's still shining a light on what exists within like our society. And, we don't always have to celebrate it. We can acknowledge it, and we can learn that it's just a part of life, and that it's very much up to us and to others, of course, to be able to change certain things to basically make a society that everybody can feel comfortable in.
Yeah, so lone wolf and single people are not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah, we're not talking about them in the negative tone whatsoever. We're talking them solely as what they're used as in the realm of anime and manga, specifically the series we're going to go over.
And let's talk about what is the appeal of a lone wolf / single person. I think that there are several points that, even though may be super obvious, Will and I are going to just mention and discuss about it right now. So I think a good thing is obviously being alone. You have no one else to rely on. You don't have that support network that we mentioned in episode 27. So then you have to be independent. You have to be self-reliant. And therefore, you have no one to, you are your own responsibility for both good and bad, basically.
And often whenever we see these kind of characters who don't rely on others, or like literally have themselves to do things and to overcome obstacles, more often than not, whenever we come across like a loner or a single character, they're incredibly OP. Like, they're incredibly powerful, but it's also because of the fact that they spent a lot of time basically doing things their own way, and they got really, really good at it. But that does come with a double-edged sword, right? Like, because you have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want, and the freedom to be able to express yourself, but also like just follow your own rules, there are going to be others who react certain ways, most often like negatively to your actions, and you have to deal with those kinds of consequences that come up from it. It's also really lonely. Nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to do things on their own, especially when it comes to like anime. You can tell that like just because these characters are super OP, they're hurting inside. There's definitely something that is missing from them, and more often than not, it's usually social interaction, love, and friendship.
So I think that when it comes to very popular / well-known instances of single / solo / lone wolf characters, which at this point we're just going to say lone wolf, or just call that from now on, so I don't have to say all of the above.
Yeah, lone wolf works. Yeah,
I would say that in my personal experience, when it comes to consuming anime and manga, there are 3 examples that are extremely like well-known, I guess. The first one being Kirito from Sword Art Online, the Black Swordsman. So
absolutely.
It's gone to the point where the isekai genre we're talking about, for example, Fantasy Bisoujo, they make fun of Sword Art Online. And this character, in many ways, is like the epitome of a loner character, and he wears the black trench coat. Oh, he's so like edgy, but he is so powerful, and he's obviously the protagonist of the whole series of Sword Art Online, at least a male protagonist. So it is, you can't deny that Kirito is a very important character when you have to consider lone wolves.
Another character we can also highlight would be Sasuke from Naruto. So yeah, if you haven't heard already, there's a lot of loners and singles in Naruto, and unfortunately, it's because of the fact that a lot of characters have really painful backstories and character developments. Sasuke being one of the major examples, because of the fact that even from the beginning, he doesn't want to interact with other people. He knows he's better than them, smarter than them, and in fact, he is actually better and smarter than most of them. But in the end, because of the fact that he's also carrying like a certain weight of expectation on himself, that success and failure are like extremes. Like there's no in between whatsoever for him. And if he needs to rely on somebody, that in itself is kind of a failure, because that means that he's not powerful enough to do things on his own.
I also think that it is, at least within the world of Naruto, there's 3 characters, Sasuke and Naruto, and Gaara being the third kind of loner character, and is very, very interesting. I mean, Will and I kind of say a lot of not so good things about Naruto, but there is a lot of good things to say about Naruto, and the contrast in these 3 characters that start off very lonesome.
I mean, not even spoilers, right? I mean, like Naruto is good guy loner, become good guy loved by everybody. Sasuke is good guy loner, but then has his own ways of becoming a bad guy loner. And then Gaara is bad guy loner, then become good guy loner.
And they're all very compelling, especially when you consider within the world of shonen action. I think also, the third kind of example that I would say is Saitama from One Punch Man. That's just, by the concept of it, is already spells out the characteristics of a lone wolf person, a person that is so powerful that one punch eliminates anything,
and nothing is able to stand up in his class, even if like there is like a social like hierarchy in terms of the classes of heroes within the world of One Punch Man. But like Jason said, right, sometimes these situations aren't like manufactured by oneself. It is also societal expectations and interpretations as well. And it's very much for Saitama, because he doesn't really like care all that much. He's very apathetic about his powers, but at the same time, like everybody is very much like so absorbed by what it means to be a hero, what it means to be powerful, until they see the might of Saitama and then realize, wow, actually, yeah, we fucked up. We should not have ignored you in the first place. You're actually super powerful. But Saitama doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just does his own thing.
Or also, it is not as rosy as you think, because there's all these characters in all of these animes and mangas that try to strive to be perfect, try to strive to be the most powerful, the best of the best. But then you always would meet that character that is at the best, at the peak, at the summit of capabilities and talent, and they're like, yeah, it's really lonely at the top. And that's like a very like that sentiment of it's lonely at the top and there's nothing else to strive for because you're at the top, there's nothing else you can do, kind of makes life very mundane and boring.
Yeah. So that's why when it comes to doing this discussion, right, or at least going over the our favorite lone wolves and like the recommendations we have for series that have lone wolves, there's a lot of interpretations of what it means to be a lone wolf within the world of anime and manga or any media in general, right? You can take the literal interpretation, like it's just them. They are a lone wolf, they're single, they're a loner, they do everything on their own, and they choose to live their life as their own. And then there's others where it's the kind of the reverse. It's manufactured by societal pressures, by expectations that go beyond what one person believes to be normal, and therefore they are created as a loner or being labeled as a loner. And it could be like a loner superhero. It could just be, a loner who is depressed or just, ostracized from society. There's a lot of different ways you can go about looking at what it means to be a single or a loner within the world of media, and we're going to try our best to be able to cover as much of them as possible.
I think another point that I would like to make before we get into our recommendations is the fact that when it comes to a certain genre, for example, the romance genre, for example, being a single person, at least from the start, at the beginning, is a very common sort of entry point for a lot of characters and a lot of like ways to sort of show how someone, for example, gets romanced, gets love interests, but they have to start out single. Very rarely, especially I would say in anime and manga, because at least in my kind of memory, when it comes to couples getting together, they usually, you don't see the couple stuff. You very much see all the will they, won't they, the struggles, the awkwardness of being single, and then at the very, very end, we get together, but then credits roll.
I mean, like one of my personal favorites that fall into that is fucking My Little Monster, right? Like Shizuku Mizutani, like loner as fuck in the beginning, but like does not care because all she strives to be is successful at school and being able to further her life. But at the same time, it's like this is a romance, right? Like you don't start off a story with people already being in a couple. Most of the time, it usually means that they have to fall in love and meet someone completely like against like their own character like orientation. So yeah, I guess like that's a really good point. There are a lot of loners and singles within romance, as you would expect.
And I think that when there are shows that show the progression and then shows the couple stuff, like the struggles of being in a relationship, because obviously just because you got into a romantic relationship doesn't mean that all of a sudden you beat the game, you're all good, peace out, right? No, there is actually so much more to being in a relationship that is not available to you, whether it's the struggles or benefits of when you are a single lone wolf person.
I mean, like Akira Ono from High Score Girl, Komi from Komi Can Communicate, like they are extreme examples of loners in a romance world where like they have their own issues, they have their own social anxieties that prevent them from being able to interact with people. And as the story progresses, you can see that they're slowly breaking down those walls and gaining more trust and comfort in people. And that's the journey that people like to see, being able to see that flower bloom. That's not always the case for a lot of dramas and romances, but you know, these are like two of the clearest examples I can think of.
I think also earlier we talked about Horimiya briefly, and I think Horimiya is a very, very good example of the progression of a relationship going up pretty much like to its like logical conclusion. And I think there's a lot of shows that do that, and I always give them sort of extra brownie points because they show the stuff that a lot of people is just like, oh, we beat the game, they're in a relationship, end of story. So,
I mean, like even to this for this season, right? Is it Gojo or Goyo from Dress Up Darling?
yeah,
Like he's loner as fuck, but then you love to see the character progression he has in the story. So again, like I think for the most part, we're not talking about characters that are always going to be like loners throughout. There are going to be people whose status changes as the story develops. But nonetheless, they have had like extended periods of being a lone wolf, and that's what we want to highlight when we talk about the recommendations and our personal favorites.
it's interesting that when Will and I were thinking of our own recommendations, whether it is our personal favorites or actual recommendations, because we separate the two, Will's interpretation of what the single/loner means versus what I think it means was different. And sometimes when it comes to definitions, it is very important to be on the same page. But in this particular instance, it was a very, very pleasant surprise because I would argue that my definition of singles and loners was extremely literal, and Will's definition was a bit more metaphorical. Would you say, Will?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, that's the thing too, right? With this kind of topic, we want to be as open as possible. It's not necessary that we have to, go on like a certain character archetype. I mean, everybody's stories within anime and manga are very different, and we want to be able to highlight everyone's story just to give enough attention to, how vast the world is, especially when it comes to talking about lone wolves within anime and manga, more so than like ensemble and supporting characters, because more often than not you find like supporting characters and ensembles kind of doing the same function, being able having the same purpose within anime and manga. But for lone wolves, there's a wider variety of what makes a lone wolf.
Right. So, Will, do you want to go into our personal favorites that are not recommendations, or just go straight into our recommendations?
I've got a lot of personal favorites. I think you've got a few too.
Right.
Maybe because we put a lot of these down on like a list within our dockets. There's always going to be something that pops out of our minds no matter what. But I mean, for me, like some of the ones that like I would say immediately, like Revi from Black Lagoon, Mugen from Samurai Champloo, L from Death Note, like those are, especially Scar from Fullmetal Alchemist as well, like insane loner appeal. Like never at any point do they ever like become like part of a group or like with the exception of Mugen and Revi, but like even within the group they still operate on their own independent motives. They still do things the way that they've always done it, regardless of what the general agenda is from the group that they're working with. I mean, Scar, for example, is like just completely like ostracized, but is fighting for what he believes to be the right thing within the world of Fullmetal Alchemist. L is doing the best he can to be able to fight against this maniacal murderer within the world of Death Note, but doesn't rely on others because he knows if he does, he's going to get them hurt too. So he rather like bear the responsibility of himself, and the story unfolds, and you just learn more about what makes L the person he is. And okay, again, if you haven't read or watched Death Note,
what are you doing?
right, like you absolutely, oh my god, it's such a good manga. Holy shit!
And the anime is really good too. So
even I would say the live action movies are kind of okay.
Nope.
The first one was great. I didn't watch anything after the first one though.
All right, so we're not going to talk about Death Note, the live action stuff, but I will talk about
the good live action podcast.
You fucking no, don't do that, dude. That's fucked up.
Okay, well, I've talked about a few of my own personal favorites. You've got a few as well. I'm sure that like you like the characters I have. I like the characters you have. Which ones are the ones you want to highlight?
I think I already mentioned Saitama, but within the One Punch Man universe, there is Genos. There is also Garu from the season 2, or obviously of the anime, which doesn't exist, so it's in the manga. But they're very, very lone wolf, each with their own different priorities and each with their own backstories. I think also another very good loner is from My Hero Academia, not All Might, but Stain. I think mentioning this character beyond mentioning just the name is spoilerific because it doesn't show up in the first or second season or something like that. And the people that do know what I'm talking about knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that character is really, really interesting and very badass.
Sad story. I mean, I absolutely love the character Stain as well. So, look, like, we have to cover everything in here. Protagonists, antagonists, side characters, whatever. Like, they, in one way, deserve attention because of the purpose they serve within the anime, within the manga, and they highlight certain things that we think appeals to what it means to be a lone wolf, good or bad.
So my last personal favorite of loners is Hachiman from Oregairu/Snafu. And it is one of those instances where the before and the after of, this loner, very cynical, just very pessimistic person, and their change over time it's really not only encouraging but very beautiful and full of heartbreak as well. It's not just all rosy, opening up, because you're being vulnerable, right? You're going out of your comfort zone. You are interacting with people who may not necessarily always be nice or receptive to you, despite even if you're right, even if you are doing a good thing. People might not like that. And that kind of backlash, or the journey that Hachiman goes on, I think it is a very powerful and rewarding experience that I think everyone should watch.
Yeah. The last two favorites I have, one of which is like my absolute favorite, is Kishibe Rohan from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Can't go into too much because he does show up in part 4, Diamonds Unbreakable. But if y'all watch up to that part, you will know exactly why I love this character. And then the last one's a bit of like a tricky one, because the fact that he does end up being one of like the greatest leaders in a group in anime and manga, and that's Luffy from One Piece. But very much from the beginning, he was always setting himself out to go out and do his own thing, and looking for the One Piece. And I just loved the journey. Like, as much as it's like the most popular manga right now, that's still running, and the fact that it's been going over like 1,000 chapters, 1,000 episodes. Look, Luffy still deserves some recognition. I love the guy. I still fucking love One Piece, even after reading, like, literally starting from the beginning all the way till, I'd say, like, maybe one volume behind current. So, yeah, I think it pretty much covers our personal favorites. Now, like, the ones we don't talk about as personal favorites doesn't mean they're not personal favorites. It's just there's a lot of characters. I think, like, that's one of the things that, like, because it exists not just in anime and manga, but also like in live action movies and novels and like novels and all that, like, these specific characters will always exist in one shape or form in anything, whether it's a romance, whether it's a drama, a mystery, supernatural, action, horror, whatever. and sometimes they are just the best character. We just like seeing progression. We like seeing character journeys. And what better way to see a journey than to see one specific character's journey from beginning to end? So I think when it comes to the recommendations, there are going to be some characters that are just loners from beginning to end. There are characters that don't need help as being a loner. There are characters who actually do need some support to be able to get better, to get back on their feet. And we want to try and cover as much of this gamut as possible.
So Will and I have narrowed down the infinite number of choices to 6 each. So we are going to go through them alternatively, like one
on one. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So do you want to go first or me?
When you go first. I talked a lot just now. I'm going to catch my breath.
Sure. One of the mangas that I read last year, I think in season 1 or season 2, where I gave it probably a lot of praise and recognition, is Blame with an exclamation mark.
Which I still haven't got around to reading, but I know it's a gorgeous manga.
The manga is written and illustrated by Tsutomu Nihei. And he also has done, I think, I can never pronounce that name, Baomega, and I think the third one is like Apomitz. But the guy is really good, all sci-fi. But Blame is probably his most well-known work, completed with 10 volumes. I read their Master 2-in-1 Omnibus Edition, published in English by Vertical. And I have to say, though, there is a bunch of OVAs, ONAs, short series of Blame, because they try to adapt it, but it's not really adaptable, and I'll get to why. But recently, Netflix has licensed a movie for Blame, done by Polygon Pictures, which is also well known for doing Knights of Sidonia. I thought that Blame, the movie, is okay. It's pretty good. And for what it is, it really captures that dystopian feel, that kind of, robots take over. And Killy, which is the character who's the lone wolf, is as lone wolf as you can get, because this guy just literally walks, and has a gun that can literally wreck shit. And he doesn't say that much either. And he just travels through this labyrinth of, I don't know, like the manga panels for this, for Blame. I like showed Will some of these manga panels. I had to like circle or like be like, yo, those are the people. And they're like ants comparatively to the structure that they're entering, or kind of like this environment. And I have to say that Blame is a really, really good manga with an okay Netflix movie. And this is the only manga that I recommend where I would say go for the manga, don't go for the anime. But watch the Netflix exclusive film. If you like kind of the style, the feel, I highly, highly recommend Blame. It is great.
I mean, I've been meaning to read it as well. Time is never a friend on our side. So I will one day. And when I do start reading it and finish it, I will absolutely let you know, Jason.
I mean, it's a story of our lives where, like, oh, I should watch Odd Taxi.
Bro, I mean, literally, before we even did this recording, I told you how much like anime and manga I consumed like in the last week, and it's still like a scratch on this like monolith of like ever growing manga and anime that's on my to watch list or on my hold list. We'll just have to keep on trucking along and hopefully get to that 100% one day, right?
But Will, you don't have to go alone on this journey. We can walk the path of anime and manga together, Will.
Yeah, power of friendship, power of love. Speaking of power and love, the character I wanted to focus on is Kotomi Ichinose from Clannad, and then the subsequent season After Story. So this is a series that debuted in 2017, fall. And then the second season, which is After Story, came a year after that, in fall 2008. This is all done by Kyoto Animation, and if you've listened to our KyoAni animation episode, which we released at the end of last year,
episode 21,
you would know how much I love the Clannad and After Story series. It's such a beautiful story. If you have played or want to play the visual novel, go ahead and do that. Watch the anime for sure, and you have to watch Clannad too, because as much as people like talk shit about Clannad, it's still really good. It's just a little bit slow, but like, damn, I still teared up. That shit was fucking awesome. So why do I want to focus on Kotomi Ichinose specifically? There are actually a lot of characters within the Clannad world that start off or continue to be lone wolves. It's just, I mean, the fact that, first of all, these are all characters that start off in high school. And when it comes to school, I mean, Jason and I know, well, of course, when it comes to school pressures and social pressures, how hard it is to navigate in terms of gaining a large group of friends or even just meeting friends in general. Like, to this day, like, ostracization still exists, bullying still exists. It's sometimes hard to fit in. And in this case, particularly for Kotomi, it's not so much that she doesn't fit in, it's just that for her, she has gone through a lot of personal traumas and a lot of bad history that it makes it really difficult for her to open up. And of course, for her, like, she's actually had a lot of interaction with the main character, Tomoya. However, because of the fact that she still can't really get past her own past childhood traumas, she's still hiding within her own shell. Now, granted, she's still doing well in school, really well in school. She's like a top 10 performer at the school, getting good grades, and actually is set up to be able to have a good post-high school life, whether she chooses to go to university or go straight into the workforce. However, because of the fact that she still holds back in trying to interact with people, it's very difficult for her to grow, very difficult for her to express herself and gain the trust of not just her friends, but the trust of herself, because she just doesn't trust herself to be able to open up and move beyond the trauma that still holds her back. But through a series of events and some, really, really heartwarming episodes, which I cannot get into because it's spoiler as fuck. She eventually learns to grow. She learns to accept some of the regrets that she's had, some of the things that she felt was always within her control and she could always do. But she comes to accept that she's not God. She's not somebody that can actually change world events or even make, change history. She is still very much a regular human being that exists within the world that she lives in. And sometimes there are things that you just have to accept, but also know that there are people around her that can help her grow, that can help her deal with grief, deal with pain, with trauma. And if anybody has watched Clannad and they know the particular scene I'm talking about, that was one of the most beautiful scenes in all of Clannad. And one of the parts where, like, I actually didn't need to cry. I mean, if I did cry, it would be cries of happiness. It was just such a poignant turn in the character because she'd always been very much a recluse. She's always been in her own little antisocial shell. But throughout all the seasons of Clannad, she slowly warms up, and she grows to be one of the most loved characters within Clannad. And like, I could have picked any character, really. Any character. There are a lot of characters to pick from, but I chose her because she's one of my favorites. And I hope that anybody who watches or plays the visual novel of Clannad and After Story, like, give some love to Kotomi.
Is Kotomi the kudere?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go, buddy.
She's kudere, dandere. She's just insanely shy and standoffish. So she shows, like, the archetypes of both. But, like, look, especially in the world of Clannad, you're gonna meet a lot of kuderes.
Hey, she cannot change the world, but she can change her own world.
I think in Clannad, there's only one tsundere, and there's a fuck ton of kuderes and danderes. But there's also some derederes, which is also like the heartwarming aspects of Clannad. Please go ahead and watch it. I know I've said before that I cried a fuck ton watching the series. It basically battles with Anohana as like the most emotional series I've ever watched, but it's definitely worth your time.
The next show that I'm going to recommend is a show that Will and I have started watching a long time ago. We haven't completed it, but in many ways, you don't really need to
I know this one. Yeah.
Feel the need to complete it because this show is what I would call episodic storytelling, kind of like what you know as anthology series, because each episode there would be maybe certain characters that are the same or repeat, but it's kind of like its own story of its own each episode, or maybe every 2 episodes. The person that I'm talking about is called Ginko, and the anime that I'm talking about is called Mushishi, which is based off of the manga of the same name, written and illustrated by Yuki Urushibara.
If you can do like a best boy of all time, I'm pretty sure that Ginko would be a nominee on my list.
It's published in English by Del Rey Manga. It's just 10 volumes, and it ran from 1999 to August 2008. There is a bunch of, I think there's 2 seasons worth, plus I think like another ONA and another movie. And Will and I have watched a good portion of the first season. And
I think we're about either 1/3 or 1/2 of the way.
I think we're 1/2 close. But regardless, Ginko is this kind of not traveling salesman, but he's
a sage of sorts.
Because in the world of Mushishi, it talks a lot about spirits, and it talks a lot about yokai and
curses and stuff like that,
of the good and bad variety. And it talks about Ginko, who is this kind of sage who travels, he just travels from place to place and interacting with different people and interacting with kind of the different spirits of that place or that realm. And I have to say that Mushishi is it's almost poetic, because each story is not only says a lot within a span of like 20-something minutes, or in the case of a double episode, it's like 40-something minutes, but you get a huge variety of happy, tragic, or like some that will make you mad, some that will make you cry, some that will make you reflect on life. And it really is kind of a metaphor for life, because there's going to be good, there's going to be bad, happy, sad, angry or not angry, or beautiful moments. And Mushishi really captures that in a very almost relaxed, calm, but equally impactful pace.
It's funny that like it's like calm and impactful, because that literally is it. Within the span of 25 minutes, like you have a very like simple way of storytelling, but the story is so rich and deep. It's like you actually take in a lot of information and a lot of emotion. And like, I think Ginko as well within Mushishi is like very much an epitome of like a lone wolf, because of the fact that like, especially she travels around and tries to, alleviate curses or goes over spirituality and all that. Like there are like different reactions to the things he does. Like you said, there are going to be good reactions, people of acceptance, of accepting his actions. And then there are others who don't. So, like, that if that's not lone wolf, then, like, I don't know really what is.
And furthermore, one thing that I think is really, powerful and very praiseworthy of Mushishi is that not every story is a happy ending, and not everyone can be saved, and not everyone should be saved. Because you would think that as someone who helps or tries to alleviate, or at least knows a lot about these curses and spirits, that it's just always going to be this person healing and saving everyone. And in a way, you're not wrong. But sometimes the best solution is not, in many people's eyes, the right solution. Because when you are this sage that is kind of like this in-between person of the spirit realm and like the realm of reality, there are just things that you would understand that people who never interacted with the spiritual world in that world would ever understand. And it's just a very, even like the ugly parts, I would say, are very beautiful, because it's very unassuming, this show.
That's it. Let's talk about like from a stylistic standpoint. It's not the most like eye-provoking show in terms of like colors and style and character design. In fact, like a lot of the stuff is very muted.
And it's very quiet, exactly, right? But doesn't mean that just because there are no sounds or there's no dialogue does not mean that there's not things that are being conveyed on the screen. And I have to say that Mushishi is one of those shows that you can always watch a little bit of and then leave and then come back. And as long as you remember who Ginko is, there really isn't any kind of lost you won't be lost at all, and you'll just be like, oh, Ginko is going to visit this village now. Oh, Ginko is going to see this person now. Now, I think in the later seasons and in the movie and so on and so forth, they revisit some of the same people. I mean, even within our consumption, we see repeating characters. And those are kind of, I would say, like your reward for remembering those characters. But even if you didn't, the story stands well on its own. And if you don't like that story, well, guess what? Next episode is another story. It's not an overarching plot. There was a little bit of that with Ginko in particular, but that's it.
I mean, there are definitely episodes where you watch where you're like, okay, this is cool, chill, not that engaging. But then you turn on the next episode and you're like, that was one of the most beautiful stories we had read and we had watched, and it was just 25 minutes, one episode across like a whole season anime. And like there are a lot of pockets like that. It's such a wonderful story. And it's also like funny as well that like as art house and as like indie the appeal is, the studio's called Artland Studio doing an art house production. It's pretty apt. There's a lot of stuff on here that okay, it might not sound like it's everyone's cup of tea, but that's the thing, right? Like you don't have to watch every single. It's not a binge worthy kind of show. It's a show that you really need to sit down and encapsulate like every moment that Ginko like shares with you. It's an incredibly good storytelling anime, and I think I would agree with Jason. I could not recommend it anymore.
And just if it's icing on the cake, Reddit / my anime list also agrees and gives Mushishi like high scores. So it's just great. Nothing else to say, really.
It's a great time. Absolutely. So on to my next recommendation. I'm going to go into... Okay, so... Yeah, I'll go into the next one here. Let's talk about Rising of the Shield Hero.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is a series that came out back in 2019 in the winter season. So winter 2019 was when it debuted. I believe it was 25 episodes. Yeah, 25 episodes for the first season. Season 2 is coming around the corner. It's coming out in 2022.
April.
And then afterwards, season 3, it is confirmed, but it's the date is not confirmed.
It's crazy because usually you don't get 2 season renewals, as in like when Shield Hero ended their first season, usually, or any season, you would just say, oh, the second or the next season has been announced. But no, instead, season 2 and season 3 was like, yo, we're going to greenlit that shit. And Rising of the Shield Hero is probably one of the more hyped shows coming this April, which Will and I will definitely cover. I think it's based off of a light novel. There is a manga adaptation that I read ahead of the season 1 of the anime.
But you're not sure like whether it like covers all season 2 or season 3 because like we have no idea like how many episodes are going to be in the future seasons, right? But you definitely read well beyond what I've consumed. But yeah, like overall, it's a fun anime to watch. I quite liked it a lot. I gave it an 8, but we're not talking about the anime specifically. We're going to be talking about Naofumi Iwatani, the main character of Rising of the Shield Hero. So he, as many isekais are, is transported into another world and actually has been summoned as a hero. Now, there are 4 different heroes that bear the different arms and different weapons of what it means to be like a holy knight, a holy hero. So there's like the sword, the spear, the bow and arrow, and the shield. And he himself is the holder of the shield. Now, immediately when you see him, he's like, oh, like wide eyes opened, like very like accepting and trusting of people around him because it's like, oh yeah, I've been selected as one of the holy heroes to be able to protect this world I've been summoned to. Let's fucking go. Let's do this shit. And so he meets the other heroes who are also transported from wherever the hell they're from into this new world. And immediately from the get-go, he's just been slammed with like, oh, you're just a shield hero. You're not going to be like, what are you going to do? Like swing your shield around and kill people? No, you're just going to be defending yourself, right? Like
clearly this guy, the people in this world has not heard of Captain America. That's all.
They're immediately setting this guy up to fail just because like, oh, there's nothing mightier than the sword. The spear is powerful and non-breaking. And then of course, like, you have a bow and arrow, like, okay, fuck, like what are you going to do? Like just protect yourself with a shield. So immediately from the beginning, he is like hit with just like a lot of ostracization. Like even like the king of the kingdom that summoned him and all that. It's like, I don't know who the fuck you are. I'm not going to give you any backup whatsoever. You know what? Here, y'all go and like divvy up the people that are going to be supporting you on this journey. Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's just try and like create like a band within our groups and then see if we can go on this journey. Nobody chooses him. He's the only person that doesn't have a single fucking follower until all of a sudden one day a certain character named Multi decides to say, "Hey, you know what? Like, I feel sorry for you. Why don't I join your party? This hero that I'm with, the sword hero, or is it the spear hero? Sword hero?
No, spear.
Oh yeah, spear hero. Like, he's got a lot of followers. He's young and handsome and such a valiant guy. But you definitely need a party because you can't go alone. I'm going to support you. Awesome, great." And that's when shit gets really, really fucking bad, because then through a lot of unfortunate events, very unfortunate events, to the point where like I think that it drew the ire of the anime and manga community collectively. He's now been charged with treason, charged with potential rape charges. He is now essentially casted as a villain, as a heathen, because he goes against the order of the the four heroes, and he's bringing the kingdom into disrepute, and so then he gets kicked out. No longer a hero, but he still gets his shield, because what the fuck is he gonna do with a shield? So immediately you can see like he goes from warm, kind-hearted, trusting to essentially just cold, battered, and just fucking hates the world. Is like if you could see like the beginning of someone slowly becoming an incel, like this is pretty much it. Luckily, he doesn't go that far, because
he does become an edgelord though.
He does. He is edgy as shit, and like thank fuck that Naofumi is still very much like mentally strong, because as much as everybody just shits on him, throws tomatoes at him, does not give him any service whatsoever, he still goes about doing his own thing, because look, I got summoned to be a hero. I'm gonna do hero things, so let me do my shit, even if you don't trust me. And that's the thing. Throughout the whole series, nobody trusts him. Even the people who have any inkling of trust with him knows that if they go against the greater order, which is essentially the people who think he is a heathen, then you're going to get ostracized too. Like, but do you want to be a loner just like him? No. So of course you're going to keep your mouth shut and stay behind the scenes. So as the story goes on, he essentially then starts gaining the trust of other ostracized people, or people who aren't necessarily like well accepted within this particular kingdom. And through a couple of different events, he then comes across a character who will then soon join his party, Raphtalia. Now, Raphtalia herself is another character that could also have fallen into this recommendations list, but I think they kind of go hand in hand together, because she's essentially a raccoon girl, and beast women or beast people within this kingdom are seen as second citizens. They're just of no use, and for the most part, they're either used as frontline like army men, or they're just used as slaves. No particular use whatsoever. But of course, because Naofumi needs somebody to join his party in order to be able to progress and level, because using a shield is not very good when it comes to defeating enemies, until of course you start powering it up. So he's been blessed with this shield, which is a +3 shield. Now, in the world of RPGs and fantasy games, it means that your stats are boosted. It means it's a definitely a much stronger shield than what you would see in any regular instance. And it also means that once you start powering it up, the scale of which it powers up is like more vast than the sword, the spear, and the arrow, to the point where he actually is lower level than all the other heroes. But he can absolutely destroy, like wipe the floor with all three of them. And slowly but surely, he gains the trust of the people. And you just have to see like how far he has to go to be able to gain that trust. It's a wonderful story. There are going to be points where like you're just incredibly angry. And you're right to do so, because this is one of those instances where like the guy doesn't want to be a loner, but he was forced into a situation because it was manufactured by powers greater than him. And it's just really rewarding to see him go through his journey of redemption. And look, like, I can't say any more, because you have to watch the rest to enjoy it. And because of the fact that season 2 is literally coming in 2 months, less than 2 months, now's a good time to catch up on it. So go check that shit out.
I think that when it comes to Rising of the Shield Hero, there are several things I would like to say. First of all, with the Shield Hero himself, Naofumi, I think one of his struggles, obviously in the beginning, we got betrayed / falsely accused of this from this redhead hot girl called Multi. He has to navigate his powers because, as Will aptly said, a shield does not necessarily come to mind when you think of offensive power.
And everything works against him, too. He goes into a shop to buy a sword, and immediately it's like, no, you can't buy a sword. You're a shield hero. Therefore, you're not compatible with using this particular weapon.
Oh, also, the fuck are you doing here? I don't want you here at all. You're like a heathen. You betrayed the kingdom or whatever.
You got money? Oh, I don't care you have money. I'm not selling shit to you. Oh, you're going to buy stuff from me? Or you want to sell stuff to me? Here, I'm going to underhand you and give you less money, right? Because you deserve it, because you're a piece of shit. You're a traitor. You're a heathen.
So the second thing that, since we're on that subject, is Multi, the redhead girl who falsely accused Naofumi of something, which is not necessarily spoilery because it happens almost right away. And when Will says that a lot of people get really angry and frustrated, I want to emphasize that this is done on purpose. Like, it wasn't, bad storytelling or bad writing. This character, by definition, is meant to cause a lot of ire from the viewers and from Naofumi and his eventual companions, such that when that resolves itself in a way, it is one of the best karmic returns I have seen in such a long time. Like, it is so good.
It's so good. It's a story of redemption, but beyond that, revenge too. It's such a good story that when you get to the end, like, I just can't wait to see more. Like, I am super excited for season 2 to come out, and once that's done, like, hopefully they can confirm season 3's debut dates, and it just continues the story.
And no one will shut the fuck up about Raphtalia. I can kind of understand that because she's pretty awesome.
I like Raphtalia.
And the third party member that joins later on is also pretty adorable.
OP as heck.
Yes, and then season 2, just by off of the poster and just by off of what I remember of the manga, it's going to be great. So look forward to it, 100%.
Kinema Citrus, you guys did a really good job with this production. That's the studio that produced Naofumi Iwatani's Rising of the Shield Hero, as in the main character. I'm not saying the mangaka.
So here's the thing, if I remember correctly, Will, can you see if you can double check this, which is Naofumi and Raphtalia are voiced by, obviously, a guy and a girl voice actor. I think that they are also the same voice actors for Bunny Girl Senpai, for Mai and the male main character. And it's just really funny because they went from one property to the other. I'm almost 100% sure, but we might need to fact check that.
So Raphtalia was voiced by Asami Seto, and as for Iwatani Naofumi, he was voiced by Kaito Ishikawa. So Kaito Ishikawa has actually a very
they both are very extensive,
very extensive. He was in Dumbbell. He was in one of the One Punch ones. He also did some music stuff for Tokyo War 24. He was in Assassination Classroom, but the anime in question
yes, he is. He is in
Senpai,
Bunny Girl
right?
Senpai, and also yes, they're both in Bunny Girl Senpai.
Well, there you go. That's another one I need to watch, along with the movie.
Right. So I just thought it was a really funny coincidence because those two animes were quite close together in terms of timing. So my third anime recommendation is going to be, actually, of all things, a comedy. It is based off of an ongoing manga of the same name, written and illustrated by Kageji, Kumanomata. And
not bad.
It is Aurora from Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle, and she is the titular Sleepy Princess.
It's about time you talked about a show that was done by Doga Kobo.
I mean, I did talk about my senpai's annoying. Doga Kobo being the
like recently, it's like they've been doing work. They've been doing some pretty good stuff, and you've watched quite a lot of them.
Yeah, and Shikimori Isn't Just a Cutie is going to air in April. I'm looking forward to it immensely because I really like the manga as well.
It's just funny that like when I watched the preview, I was like, this is very much a Dogokobo show, and you're like, yeah, no, I think they found their style, and
right.
like it works now.
Right, like
works.
if you were to show me a certain show and then be like, is this made by Studio Trigger? I'll be like, I will know. Oh,
is this UFO Table?
I will know.
Yeah.
Oh, is this by KyoAni? I will know.
The only ones that like we don't really know would mostly be like Mappa or Cloverworks because they do so much shit.
No, Cloverworks I can tell.
Well, if you
Like
watch, you watched Tokyo Ward.
Okay, maybe not.
Right?
But with Akebi and Dress Up Darling,
Yeah.
with Horimiya, I can see that.
Mappa would be tough.
Mappa will be tough. Production IG will be tough.
Bones.
I think Wit I will know based off of the property, not of the look.
I think if you looked at stuff with Wit, right? If you can tell by their use of color,
Exactly, right?
then you know it's Wit Studio.
That's why it's the look and the property. Anyways, Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle. This story is actually a gag comedy. It is not a brooding, edgy loner, but this princess in this story gets kidnapped by the Demon King and is imprisoned in the castle. And also, because she likes to sleep a lot, she is known as the Sleepy Princess.
Oh, no way. Is she sleeping in a demon castle?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So
right.
here's the thing. When it's just funny because you would think that, oh, it's just this typical story. Like, how is it, like, really good? Why is the manga rated, like, an 8 point something on my anime list and is, like, a top 200 manga? It's just so funny because the princess just doesn't give a shit, first of all. All she cares about is making a bed, making a good bed, having a good blanket, having a good pillow, and each gag, because each episode is filled with 2 or 3 gags, has a quest. And that is the objective of that, skit. And let's just say, very beginning, she gets out of her cell really easily. To the point where everyone now, like when you're in like episode 4 of 12 or whatever, all the demons are just like, yeah, okay, just let her go. Where is she going? Oh, she's doing this again. God damn it. There's a part where all the Demon King and all, like, I guess the evil generals have like this really like ominous like meeting room where they convene and talk about, I guess, evil things. And the princess would just sit there and be like, yo, what's up? And I think it's just really funny. All the characters are very endearing and very funny. And the hero, which is the person that is supposed to be destined to save the princess and marry her, is a total ass. No, not yet. Sorry. He's not an asshole, but he's totally incompetent. And yeah, she doesn't want anything to do with the hero. I think that it's really unfortunate that there is no season 2. The manga is really good. And the anime season that we got from fall 2020 is extremely good.
What's the name of the character?
Don't do this to me, bro. Okay.
Try it.
Aurora, Surarise, Syalis, Kaymin.
Not bad. There you go. That wasn't as bad as you thought, right?
Yeah. It's just really cute. It's very fluffy, which is not what you would attribute to a single or a loner, but that's really the Sleepy Princess carries the show.
I mean, for fuck's sake, it has a fucking JoJo's reference in it as well, right?
It's a great JoJo reference too. I like texted you and you're like,
yeah,
you can't escape it, bro.
Can't confirm.
Okay.
Now we're gonna start getting into some real like dark territory. I don't think any of the characters I'm going to be talking about now have. Oh man, it's going to be a world of depression here now.
It's really funny because Will is all about the edgy stuff. I'm all about the fluffy stuff, and our recommendations so far -1 from each
falls into each category.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, which one will I go next? Okay, I'm gonna go with one that I actually recently finished, like literally finished like 2 days ago. And the show in question is Casshern Sins, or as pronounced within the show itself, Casshern. Yes, I had to say it again. So we actually talked about Casshern Sins not too long ago. We actually did an episode talking about Madhouse Productions and going over their catalog. Now, at the time, I only watched about 6 episodes, but I had enough to talk about what I liked about the show, what I didn't like about the show. But the first thing is that it is quite old. It came out 13 years ago. It came out in fall 2008, and only one season, 24 episodes. In a way, it's kind of like an original because it's not based on a manga or a light novel. In fact, actually, it's a redux. It's a retelling of an original animation that was also called Casshern Sins, or just Casshern. I forgot what it was. But it was a one-season show, 24 episodes. It was a long series. And the issue that I had with the show is that it fell under the whole JoJo Part 1 Steins Gate like syndrome, in which it took quite a lot of episodes to build up. So like I think by the time I got to like the 8th or 9th episode, I was like, God damn, this is really slow. And not to mention it is relatively old, so like the animation quality wasn't the greatest. But what I did like were the characters. The characters in the show are amazing. More specifically, we're talking about the titular character, Casshern or Casshern. But I'm going to say Casshern from now on because Casshern, I can't not laugh when I say Casshern. So he is a human, a cyborg, a robot, immortal. I don't know what he is. There's a lot of mystery that surrounds his character.
He's Casshern.
Casshern.
There you go.
Stop it. Cashew nuts. Yeah. He's made out of cashews, basically. So he is this mysterious character that shows up in this really fucking desolate world. It is like way worse than Mad Max, because at least Mad Max had like cars and fires and shit like that. This is literally like a world where there is absolutely nothing but dust, sand, rocks, rust. And when I say rust, the whole world has basically like fallen into just absolute like dystopia. Like in fact, there's almost like no like life left on this earth. There's almost no water. Everything is just dry and arid. In fact, like everything is just it just seems to be like the lone humans that are still alive, and robots that run around the earth like destroying and killing things because they know that the end is nigh. And the reason for that is because the world has fallen under this weird curse, this weird like a virus or condition called the rust, and it meant that even humans are afflicted by it. Their body parts would slowly decay, some at a faster pace, some at a much slower pace. But what happens then is the rust will slowly overtake your body parts, your arms, your legs, your body, your face, and it will slowly spread and spread and spread until the point where you no longer are living. You have just decayed into a pile of rust. This affects both humans and robots. However, the only person that's not affected by any of this is none other than Casshern, because of the fact that, for some reason, he's immortal. He is the most beautiful, most perfect human/robot in this world, and everyone is jealous of him because he doesn't have to die. He literally is immortal. Now, the issue with this character then is because that there is ongoing rumors that he is the reason why the world has fallen to the rust. Because there is a goddess of sorts named Luna, and she was tasked, or at least responsible, for providing life, almost like immortality across the world. But Casshern then has to go and assassinate her, and because of assassinating her, it has then thrown the world into this crazy rust-filled society, and everybody is now slowly dying, and now everybody fucking hates Casshern. Everybody wants to fucking kill him. Because the other rumor is that because he himself is immortal, if you were to eat Casshern, human or robot, you would yourself gain immortality. So every single fucking robot, even the humans who initially see him as just a regular human being, but then find out he is Casshern, turns on him. They look at him and think, you know what? You're the one who did this to us. We're going to fucking kill you. We're going to eat you. We're going to get back the life you took away from us, and you're going to fucking die for it. Now, the thing that they underestimate is that not only is he immortal, he's also a fucking killing machine. He then goes into these weird trances, these fucking maniacal massacre like mind states where he just basically, his eyes glow blue, his face mask goes up. And that's the thing I like about it too. It's like a very Sentai kind of thing where like he literally looks like Moomin Rider. He looks like a fucking superhero. I liked a lot about the show. And he goes on these crazy blood-filled like rampages and just kills everything around him. But then he snaps out of his trance and he just looks at himself as, why do I kill? Why do I live? And you're just like, oh, fucking, oh, great. This is such a good show.
This is peak edginess, my man.
Yeah. It's like, every single episode is just like, why can't I die? Why must I kill? And everyone's like, because you're the one who ruined everything for us. You're the one who's immortal, blah, blah, blah. You're going to take everything away from us. We're going to take everything from you. And it's like, I don't want to live. I don't want to live forever. And then he just kills a bunch of people in front of him. It's just like, what the fuck are you doing, Casshern? This is fucking crazy. You can't tell people you want to die, but then you end up killing everyone around you.
Because they don't like My Chemical Romance, Will.
Dude, actually, oh, wow, fuck you. Actually, that's perfect. If My Chemical Romance did the opening for this shit, I would have fucking loved it. That's one gripe I do have. The opening for Casshern Sins is awful. It's one of the worst OPs because it's such a jarring difference from the overall feel of the show. It's dark, it's depressing, it's there's no color whatsoever. It's just gray, black, white, and red because red is all the blood that's around, right? Right? But the music, the opening is like very like upbeat rock. It's like da 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 da. It's like, wait, why are you like trying to be so happy about this shit? But I guess it's just one of those things where it's like it's such an extreme from what the show is about that it actually makes sense to have it. I personally don't like it, but whatever. Like the show came out 13 years ago. I'm not about to change that shit. But get back onto the story itself. Casshern just goes throughout the whole show just like literally as a lone fucking wolf. Yes, he does bring up companions, but there's always questions of why is he doing this? Why is he trying to save these people? Does he not like need to save them? He has his own immortality. Why does he care so much about the people around him when you know for a fact that at some point he's just going to turn and kill them too? Like that's literally it. Like the show itself is so dark and so edgy that I just loved it. The ending was okay. But overall, like you just have to watch it because in terms of like solo character struggles, Casshern fits the bill.
Okay. So my next recommendation, I don't know if we can get through all of our recommendations.
We'll make time, dude.
Okay. So my next recommendation is based off of the manga of the same name by Chika Umino. Is probably one of the more well-known mangakas out there. I think Will likes a manga and an anime that I also like called Honey and Clover. Will really likes it. He's putting his hands up in the air.
Fucking love it. And I've watched a little bit of the show you're going to be talking about,
exactly.
Too.
That's why I picked it. This show is March Comes In Like a Lion, and the character in question is the male main character, Rei Kiriyama.
Currently 2 seasons. Debuted in fall 2016, and then the second season came out in 2017 fall as well.
Produced by Studio Shaft.
It looks fucking great. It's a beautiful show. Shaft, I like Shaft a lot.
I mean, Monogatari, man.
I'll be talking about a lot of Shaft later on in the next episode or whenever it comes up.
We're talking about the studio, but yes.
Not my Shaft.
Yeah, oh, bruh. Okay. March Comes In Like a Lion takes place in a world like in real life, and Rei is a shogi player. Shogi is, I don't really want to reduce it to basically Japanese chess, but if you are unfamiliar with shogi, that is the closest comparison that I can give you. So one thing that I have to say about shogi in particular is that if you reach a certain rank, the Shogi Association will pay for you to play matches. So you can actually be this could be your job. And Rei is he in high school or?
High school, I think,
yes.
Yeah.
And he actually is a professional shogi player. He gets paid. He has a stipend. He lives on his own, which we'll get into later. And he, at least in the shogi world, is extremely accomplished at such a young age already. So God knows what will happen years from then on. Like he only going to go up. But Rei in particular is someone who is very much a social outcast. Your thick rim, black glasses, doesn't know how to interact with people really, very gloomy and depressive all the time. Just take a look at his apartment. It's really bare bones. He doesn't do really anything other than shogi, except he recently encountered a person, a woman, and he starts to hang out with her family, which is the Kawamoto sisters, which is Akari, Hinata, and Momo. And he kind of goes over there and has a lot of meals together, and they kind of interact. And I have to say, the three sisters are just the most precious thing on the human planet. And it is just really warm and bubbly. But then when Rei goes to sort of the shogi realm, because that's his job, even though high school is also his job, there is a lot of struggle. There is a lot of, pent up frustration because, he's like the talented new kid on the block.
The golden goose, yeah.
Exactly. So everyone loves him. Then they get jealous. Or people who have worked so hard to get to a certain level, but they're at age 40. And then all of a sudden some random 16-year-old comes in and swoops all the attention and all the accolades. And not only that, but it talks about Rei's internal struggle with himself, depression, self-confidence. And then in like other kind of areas, it also talks about some of the three sisters. And one sister in particular, there is a very, very important arc that she goes through that is so powerful and really frustrating in terms of if you've gone through that, you would really understand and feel for the character. I thought both seasons were like above an 8 on my anime list. I gave the first season like a 7.5, and sometimes if you ask me, I'll give it an 8 or I'll give it a 7 depending on my mood. But season 2 is undoubtedly a 9, if not higher. And I can only say good things about the show.
The three sisters are great, by the way. I really like the three sisters.
And the art style is also pretty cool too. It's
Shaft, man. Like Shaft are a fucking good studio. I mean, like I would love to see more Shaft stuff. I will see more Shaft stuff because we're doing this long, ongoing series where I have to watch Monogatari stuff, which I will report back on in the next episode.
Oh, sorry. If you like cats, by the way,
they
feature a lot of cats in the Kawamoto household, and it's just adorable. Momo is fucking adorable as shit.
The cats are fucking cute as shit. Kawaii as fuck.
It's
Kawaii Neko.
It's just like an oasis in a Rei's world outside of shogi, and it's just a really nice character development, character study of depression and connections.
Right. The character that I'm going to go into now for my fourth recommendation, I won't take too much time because she actually unfortunately doesn't get as much airtime in the in the anime I'm about to talk about, but it's a 3D anime. And, more often than not, when we talk about 3D anime, usually it's kind of okay. It's not like it would be like the best animation quality, but it's serviceable.
It's Polygon Pictures, right? Polygon Pictures, right?
I like Polygon. Some people don't, but hey, at me. But the studio in question here is Orange, and the anime in question is Land of the Lustrous.
Woo!
Right? Or Hoseki no Kuni. Debuted in fall 2017. Jason has already watched and read the manga. Or have you read the manga?
Yeah, I've read the manga up to the hiatus because the manga took a hiatus because she wants to play her PS5. So, literally, that's what she said in her afterword.
We'll find out again in 10,000 years if she's going to be continuing. But it's a one-season cur. So one cur season, 12 episodes. And holy hell, it is one of the most gorgeous things I'd ever seen. It took a while for me to get into it because I watched one episode, it was cool, and I watched more, and wow, the fucking animation is fucking good. I would say that I'm sure you know what scene I'm talking about in like episode 9 or 10.
Is it involve a certain diamond individual?
Yeah, and I thought the animation quality was on par, if not better, than the chase scene from season 3, part 2 of Attack on Titan. That's just fucking great. Now the character in question I have here, because each character themselves, there's a thing. The world of Land of Lustrous is very lonely. Everybody's a fucking loner. The character I want to talk about is Cinnabar. Now, Cinnabar is actually named after a real life material, which is like the red form of mercury sulfide. And it in IRL, in the real world, it's one of the most common ways of extracting mercury. Now, mercury, as we have grown up to know, is essentially like in normal temperatures, liquid form, and you use it to put into like medical devices. More commonly, we use it to put into thermometers. So whenever you see the red thing go up and down, that's mercury. Mercury is also incredibly poisonous. And so that's the problem with Cinnabar's character. She is essentially a lone wolf because nobody wants to work with her because otherwise you'll just erode and get poisoned. Everywhere she walks, the grass dies and all that. She's also like quite brittle. Like I think because there's a scale, the Mohs scale or whatever, like the hardness scale.
Yes, like it's an actual real life scale that people use to measure hardness in a material.
Yep. So you have like other characters in there that are also named after real life minerals. I think the main character is phosphophyllite.
Phosphophylite, yeah.
So then there's also diamond. There's also yellow diamond.
There's bort.
Yeah.
So the problem that Will is encountering that I sympathize with 100% is he has not really gone into what Land of the Lustrous is about in terms of story. And it's really difficult to kind of explain what the hell Land of the Lustrous is, really, right? I mean,
all these characters are bipedal, like humanoid minerals, right? Literally whatever mineral name they have, that's the mineral makeup they have. So if they are called diamond, their body is made of diamond. If they are like Cinnabar, they're made of Cinnabar. Now they're all like asexual. There's no actual gender that's listed for them, but for the most part, all of them are like female designed. In fact, like almost every one of them has female voice actresses. But that's nothing to focus on anyway. The main thing to focus on is the characters themselves. And Cinnabar is probably one of the most tragic ones because she literally she was created the way she was, and there's nothing she can do about it. But because of her, I'd say that, but her toxic nature, because of the fact that she literally is toxic, she's poison. She is the only one of the group within the Land of Lustrous that has to work on night shifts. Now, what am I talking about? Night shifts. The whole world is rich in minerals, but there's also an enemy that lies beyond their universe, which are like the moon gods, like the lunar people, the Lunites or whatever it's called, Lunarites, I think.
Yes, yes.
And their aim is to harvest all these minerals. Now, of course, the bestest, pristine minerals are the ones that are already living. So the ones that can move and fight and all that. And so then, like, it is up to the diamonds and the minerals themselves to essentially protect themselves and not like get captured. Doesn't always work. Sometimes it works. It's a very sad world. However, when it comes to the night shift, these minerals need to rest, except for Cinnabar. Cinnabar is the only one that works at nights because she's literally the only one where like she's super powerful, but also nobody wants to work with her. Nobody wants to do the night shift, so they just put it on her. And that then means that she just doesn't trust anybody. She feels like she's been betrayed, but also like she can't do anything about it because if she can't gain the trust of anybody, she's not going to be able to voice her displeasure because what are you going to do? Are you going to like say no? Like you're already being ostracized. Like the last thing you can be is be decommissioned and destroyed and become inactive.
But she won't. And also because yeah.
And the other thing as well is technically these characters are quote unquote immortal. They can be put back together if they ever break and they can be restructured. But later on you find out that it's not as straightforward as that. In fact, like even by ending like on like episode 12, I still have so many fucking questions and I would love to see a season 2, but who knows? Maybe I'll find more about Cinnabar's tragic backstory, but it is one of the saddest stories you can see. But that's just only one part of it. There's a lot of sadness, a lot of darkness in the Land of Lustrous, even though the word lustrous itself is, very far from dark. Please, everyone, just pick this shit up. Watch season 1, and then pick up the manga, and then read up to the hiatus, and then just leave it at that, because you're never going to see the end of it, because as long as the mangaka still has her PS5, we got like another 9,999 years to go before we see any developments for the manga.
So a couple of clarifying facts. The hardness scale that Will and I are talking about, which is also present in the anime, is called the Mohs hardness scale.
Oh,
MOHS.
Yeah.
Like, that's a real thing, scientific thing that measures the hardness of a material. Second of all, Cinnabar is the highlight that is the character that Will wants to highlight, but technically, it is not the main character.
Yeah.
The main character is Phosphophilite, which we mentioned ever so briefly. And
her hardness scale is a 3.5. Right?
It's the worst, basically.
Yeah.
She's super brittle.
And super dumb, but she grows.
And I read the manga up to the hiatus. I have to say the manga is a 10 out of 10. It's just really, really good. And it is just so sad. It's funny because if you are a veteran of Land of the Lustrous, the manga, and read up to the hiatus, you may think that the hiatus is actually not necessarily a bad thing, because if you catch up to where I am in the manga, you'll be like, yeah, maybe she does need a break. Maybe the manga should chill out for just a little bit. And no one understands until you get to where I am in the manga. The last thing I'll mention is Studio Orange is well known for making B-stars as well. And in fact, in my opinion, they're the only anime studio that does 3D anime super well. And I would change that. I would say perfectly. Because there are times when Polygon Pictures can do things really well, but it will never be perfect. Yeah, I shit on Polygon Pictures, but I do think Polygon Pictures is also very capable as well. But their style is very different than Orange.
There's a certain grittiness to their 3D that is not as. I mean, you can definitely tell. If you watch, say for example, Ajin, right, or Ultraman, it's not as smooth as Land of the Lustrous' Orange studio. It makes sense. If Land of the Lustrous was done by Polygon Pictures, it wouldn't be as nice.
I also think the fact that Studio Orange actually utilizes the benefits of a 3D anime is extremely commendable, and I don't think a lot of people do that. Because Polygon Pictures, for example, their kind of camera angles, their shots, their composition is
their frame rate as well.
Yeah, it's extremely what you would expect from a typical anime. But as Will alluded to earlier with a certain scene in episode 9 of season 1, let's just say the camera, if you will, the viewpoint, it's super dynamic. It's all shot obviously in a one-shot kind of take, which is really weird to say in a fictional kind of way. But Studio Orange utilizes the use of the fact that it is 3D to its absolute greatest potential that it could be. Such that if that's the way that 3D anime is going to go, I've said this before, this is great. I would be happy, so happy, that if 3D anime would go down this route.
Also, to provide some clarification, I did say Ultraman for Polygon Pictures. The one I'm talking about is actually the animation they did back in 2003. I'm not talking about the one that's on Netflix. I will check later which studio that one is, but I just want to confirm that I'm not making a mistake there.
All right. I think I could go on for another recommendation, but I think we're kind of really...
You can rush through it. I can rush through mine easy. Do you need some time for your one?
No, I mean, there's 4 more left between us, right?
Well, I'm not going to do my last one. I have one more to go.
All right. Why don't you do that then?
Okay.
I'll give up my spot for you because I think that anime is actually really good.
Okay. I think the best boy in terms of all of the loners I have comes from a anime that debuted in summer 2019 by one of the greatest studios of all time, Wit Studio. It's a 1 season, 2 cour, so 24 episodes. We're talking about Vinland Saga, one of the best animes that come out during the year 2019. It's very simple. Main character, Thorfinn Karlsefni. He is such a fucking beast. Such a good character, but such a tragic character too, because he goes through a lot of crazy shit. Has to see his father get fucked up, and then afterwards going on his journey where he has to just basically fight tooth and nail to survive and gain supremacy in a cold, dark, desolate world that is Northern Europe. One funny thing is that
Also, Northern Europe is always cold and dark and desolate.
Northern Europe within the world of Vinland Saga. I'm not talking about the real world, like all the Finns, all the Swedes, the Nords, the Norwegians, Danish, and all the Icelandics. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that it's a dark desolate place. I've been to Denmark, I've been to Copenhagen, I've been to Ålesund, and I've been to Oslo in Norway. Beautiful places, but y'all gotta admit that your places are cold as fuck, insanely cold, and that's like the world that they live in within Vinland Saga. It is a trash heap, like the world they live in, because it's just war. Everything is war. You just see like decapitated bodies everywhere, heads on stakes. Literally, like heads are. It was a time when like the trophies you would get are literally the heads of the enemy, like the captain's heads. Like that was just like the world they lived in. And Thorfinn was fucking good at that shit. But that's also because he had to leave his hometown. He had to basically go and do his own thing. He had to betray people. He had to smarten up and like try and like find ways to gain an advantage so that he would survive. And he was really fucking good at surviving. Like, he's not very good when it comes to making friends because, damn, Vinland Saga is not a place to be making friends. It was such a wonderful time watching that shit. I could go on more, but a lot of it is spoilers. Let's just say if you're really in for something that's dark and edgy and very, very like historical, because it's not like based in history, but there are a lot of things that they take from like actual historical characters, from
like Vikings, right?
Yes, exactly. And also like the Normans and a few other like races and castes within that time period as well.
So I will say that even though I have only watched one episode of it, it is very, very well done, and I think season 2 has been announced, but I don't think that there's a firm date yet. But everyone is super hyped about it, which is great. The other thing that I want to mention finally is the main character. He is really small in terms of stature comparatively to some of the adversaries that he has to overcome or the challenges that he has to overcome. And
I mean, like when we talk about Vikings and like Nordic warriors, like you think like 6'5" up to 7 feet, full of muscle and thick bones, clubs and axes, and just murder and mayhem. No, this guy is literally like 5'4", 5'5", but will have no problem in absolutely fucking murdering you. It's fucking crazy.
I think in the first episode even, there's a dude that grabs basically a tree trunk and fucking uses it as like a hammer and stuff. And all of a sudden, this little pipsqueak kind of guy, in comparison at least, grabs a dagger and goes, yo, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and declares it too, by the way, and then proceeds to do just that.
It's such a crazy, violent anime, but loads of people love this shit. If you are going to read it instead, after watching a bit of it, do note that because of the way it was animated and produced, some stuff is done out of order, but overall, you'll still be able to enjoy the series, whether you read it or watch it.
All right. That is the end of our recommendations.
We have a lot. I think we still had like 2 or 3 we could go over, but like sometimes we just are very passionate about the ones we talked about before.
Yeah, and we just got a shit on the Academy Awards, and less so with Crunchyroll. But come on, guys.
Really, Slime? Oh, come on. Well, it's not Slime's fault. It's the people who voted for it.
You're a slime.
Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
All right. That is the end of our episode. You can always reach us through our email, gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. You can also contact us on Twitter using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word. We have a Facebook page, www.facebook.com/PaletteGood, capital P, capital G, all one word. We have a website, www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. We have a Mal Club. We have a Discord. The links are in the show description, or you can just email us. We'll give it to you, no problem. You can be less of a single and loner and come join us as a group to talk about anime and manga.
Open arms, guys. Come on in.
Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is No Cry by Fashion. Our break music is Be Right There by Omie. And our outro music is Future Vibes by Kyo. Our music was provided courtesy of epidemicsound.com. If you're interested in using Epidemic Sound as a service, we will have a referral link for you that is provided in the show description. William,
Yeah. So before we even did this episode, you were thinking like, do we really have enough to talk about singles and loners?
Look, okay, my
No.
bad, right? Like, to be fair, the amount of pages and text that we have for the docket is actually not that much comparatively.
Not at all.
But we went in on the news stories. We went in on the recommendations. And I think, like, as usual, it was great. So,
I mean, like it gave us the opportunity to deep dive into like some of the characters that we really, really like, and sometimes you just can't get lost with time, right? Like you think you're gonna maybe talk about like 2-3 minutes about Cinnabar, but no, Cinnabar is a fucking tragic character. Oh, I didn't think I'd be talking that much about Naofumi Iwatani from Shield Hero, but holy shit, I really like this story, and I fucking hate Multi. So hey,
I mean, with Cinnabar in particular, you can just say the cast of Land of the Lustrous.
yeah, exactly. That's what I said too. It's like you can pick any character in there, because it's just everyone's sad. Sad minerals.
No one's happy.
And I should I go ahead and read the manga?
It's up to you, but I read it.
Okay, all right.
And it goes places. Like, you think like, oh, where can it go from here? I'll tell you potentially.
When I get there, I'll let you know.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you all very much for listening to today's episode. Again, stay safe, stay healthy, stay indoors if you can. We will catch you guys again in 2 weeks' time when we do our next episode. I'm not going to do any previews or trailers, but you will see in 2 weeks' time the next Good Anime Palette Podcast episode. Thank you very much. We'll catch you all very, very soon.
See you on the flip side.